my comrades, my friends, my beautiful, beautiful compatriots. How are you doing? This is going to be our very first ASMR stream. Yeah, that's good, isn't it? Hello, folks. I know if I keep that bit going for too long, some of you are going to actually, in real life, die. Hello! Uh-oh, stinky indeed, Pig Puncher. Whew! All right. I have had, over the past 48 hours, the worst headache. I think it's because I haven't been going to the gym since I hurt my back, and since then I've just been steadily feeling worse and worse and worse. But holy shit, dude. Ugh. But hey, no headache, no physical impairment can possibly impact the overwhelming joy and appreciation I have for this morning's news. Oh, baby. Oh, oh, oh. John Delaney sends his regards. Excuse me. Oh, I actually expected this to take a lot longer. I thought that Kamala Harris would go through for at least one or two more debates. Didn't she meet the requirements for the next debate? I'm pretty sure she met the requirements. Yeah, should have stayed in her lane. Should have stayed a fucking prosecutor. Should have stayed a cop. Still, the news came as a shock to some of her biggest supporters. Just as Harris was announcing the news internally, a super PAC had cleared more than 1 million in TV ads in Iowa to boost her struggling campaign. Ooh. Ooh. I'm choking up just reading it. The ad, which argued she was the best equipped candidate to take on Trump, was canceled. Ooh. Sorry. Anyway, so that's nice. I mean, you know, we're all Bernie bros here. We're all Sandernistas. Oh yeah, a little piece of shit news, by the way. The Surfs TV, I'm sure most of you know them. The Surfs TV recently got banned from Twitch, which is really cringe. He was watching my debate with Sargon, and he got fucking bannerinoed for it. Yeah, right here. See. So the way Twitch bans work, the way they work is that if you're banned from Twitch, you're like an unperson. You stop existing. And I'm banned from Twitch. So by watching my video, the Surfs engaged in the tremendous sin of acknowledging my existence, of recognizing the fact that I continue to exist. So this is mega cringe. It's probably just like for 24 hours or for 7 days or something like that, or 3 days or whatever, but it still really sucks. It also has some pretty unsettling implications. Think of it, for example. Imagine if I was still on Twitch. Imagine if I never got banned. Nick Fuentes is banned from Twitch. Would I be allowed to do coverage of him? Would I be allowed to do a video on him? Would I be allowed to take him down or critique his videos or call him a spineless Zoomer neo-Nazi coward with deep-seated emotional issues? I guess not, right? Because he's banned from Twitch. So this kind of sets an uncomfortable precedent where you can just... You can just delete a person from being able to be shown, and sometimes that can be advantageous to the people who have been banned, which is really weird. Twitch is such a shit company, dude. I feel so comfortable saying that now that I know there's no chance of me ever getting back on that platform. Twitch is such a poorly moderated shit fucking company. It's incredible to me. It's actually amazing to me that Amazon haven't sent in their fucking goons to truncheon all the fucking Twitch employees and replace them with robots. Because the amount of the amount of pro-femoid Squad W shit, the poor decision-making, the lack of transparency, it's actually fucking astonishing how bad they are. And there are a lot of good things about Twitch, but not because of the company. It's because of the people on the platform. Everything good about Twitch comes from the creatives who spend their time there. The reason I want to go spend time on Twitch isn't so... I don't want to stream there consistently, but if I did want to go on there, it wouldn't be because of the company. Fuck the company. It would be because of the podcasts over there, the thriving streaming community they have, the connections and networking that I could build with all the hot gamers, you know? But not the company itself. Not the company itself. So in a way, I'm actually kind of glad that I got banned, because I'm glad I had the opportunity to build an audience on YouTube now, rather than, say, 3 months from now in alt universe Vosh, where I'm still streaming on Twitch, where I get permabanned because I keep doing content on neo-Nazis who have attempted to stream on Twitch and later got banned. I'm pretty sure Brittany Venti has also been permabanned from Twitch. There are probably others too. Yeah, we'll never get Vosh on the Raj Royale. Fucking sucks. Wow, Pig Puncher. Alt Universe Vosh probably doesn't have a beard. Yeah, if I was streaming on Twitch right now, it would all be like a goatee. That would be the only thing I have. With all that said, this is not the reason why we're here today, folks. You all see the stream title. Are we ready to get to it? Well, I hope you're not, because I'm going to read donations first. But then it's time. Okay? Mountain of Madness with the $5. Psych True. JB Hermit with the $18 donation. Thank you so much, comrade. I accidentally did you the scams a while ago. I hope my PayPal works now. This is the money for the message you read on stream in my tier 1 sub. I don't care about the colored name, so no need to fix. Oh, JB Hermit. We can get you that colored name. Send an email to the support for the site. For the fucking... When you click on support content... if you want to. Okay, whatever. Godspeed. Thank you, comrade. I really appreciate it. The Left Tech Cat with the £5. Thank you. Now you've done Sargon, you'll take your true endgame boss, Stefan Molyneux. Love to see that smug piece of shit schooled. Great work destroying Sargon. We'll get to that. Also, we actually had a debate lined up with Stefan Molyneux. And then his fucking manager never got back to me. So I don't know if he's a giant pussy. I don't know if things have been delayed. I have no idea. Maybe the manager was just sending feelers out. You know what I mean? Like sending feelers to see who like was open to debate and what Stefan would be interested in debating. He's bitched out of debating Destiny like 2 or 3 times. It's not surprising that he would also bitch out of debating me. Yeah. Sigil Rune with the $2. Keep whispering those sweet nothings to me. Thank you, I will. I'll keep up the ASMR streams. And Balthazar with the $2. Can't prosecute Harris is out. A cab K comrades. I already covered that segment, but yes, that is true. Fuck Kamala Harris. Red Eye Sam with the $2. I refuse to smile till Booty Judge drops out. Hey, that's homophobic, okay? Keep it together. And Balthazar with the $5. Unfortunately, her followers will flock to Peter Memes Bourgeois, Warranty Void, I'm gonna eat those hairy legs Biden, or Corey's not in the White House. I think that most Kamala Harris supporters will go over to Pete. That seems most likely to me, you know? Gay man, black woman. I feel like they're like on a similar scale for like the libtard like PC woke crowd, you know, where they were looking to shake things up and have high hopes for the living. You know, I feel like they operate in a sort of a comparable level there, but who do I know? Dracoris Felving with the $2. What would you recommend I start streaming on? Oh, that depends on what you're trying to do, comrade. In terms of networking and discoverability, Twitch is infinitely superior to YouTube in almost all cases. I stream on YouTube for a wide variety of reasons, one of which being that I have a strong YouTube channel that I can pull viewers from. Meth Rogan. Oh, you guys are never going to let me get to the segment, are you? Meth Rogan with the $5. Thank you. Gonna hit up the treadmill while watching the stream. Why save fitness goals for 2020 when you can start now, you dig? How fast should I go? I think you should I think you should ditch the treadmill and use the Stairmaster. That's my shit right there. That's where you get the fucking glute meat. When you're doing those deep, deep fucking stair climbs, like fucking 2.5 feet every step, and you can squeeze your ass each time and it feels like a big ball of fucking lactic acid. That's the shit right there. The Stairmaster is the quality. I say you ditch the Stairmaster and hop on the elliptical? You fucking crazy? Daniel Webster with the 500 rubles. Thank you, comrade. That's very generous of you. Seriously. First off, great work in the Sargon debate. What are your thoughts on impossibilism, the idea that social, political, and economic reform has limited value under capitalism? I think do what can be done for those in need. Reform under capitalism is a way of harm reduction. It's no amount of reform under capitalism ultimately is going to bring about a acceptably ethical state of affairs. However, the goals are twofold. For one, good policymaking now can make people's lives better. That's valuable. And for two, good policymaking now can softly introduce people to the benefits of more left-leaning political policy where they wouldn't have been as amicable to it otherwise. Those are the main benefits with engaging in reformism now. But I agree, no amount of reformism, I don't believe reformism is going to get us there. There. You know what I'm talking about. And Curmudgeon with 100 yen. Thank you. Don't you think the third world has a greater potential for a socialist revolution? Love you, comrade. Trans rights. Yes, I do. I've often said I believe that the greatest likelihood of seeing some sort of global socialist revolution begins not in the first world, but in the developing world. There have, after all, already been socialist revolutions in the developing world. They don't always turn out perfectly, mind you, but I think that I think that we have a greater degree of likelihood of seeing what we want to see there in those instances. Let me clear up donos and then we'll get to things proper. Somnio Static with $5. You scared the living shit out of me because I forgot I was waiting for a stream to start and I started hearing someone whispering creepy shit in my ear. Also, fuck Katmala. Why do people keep saying they're shocked when the stream starts and I start talking? Why not just lower the volume of the video when you're waiting in the Okay, I don't fucking know. Hey, listen, every day I delight knowing that I startle a few people in their seats when I start talking, when the stream begins. Every day. I got scared anyway. Lexiphy with the 130 test. You did it. You sent a dono. And Professor Studs with the $5 on the federal poverty line talking point from the Sargon debate. Thanks to my job, I have actual data on how inaccurate the federal poverty line is. Look up the Alice report, but FYI, it might only cover Michigan. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we will go over the specifics very soon. Very soon. But until then, Dracoris Felving with the $10. Thank you so much, comrade. That's very generous of you. Quick flood more donos. I don't want to listen to Carl's pathetic voice. Oh, no. Oh, you can't get out of this, comrade. There's no way out. I'm sorry. We're suffering together. I had to watch the VOD again. Okay? Connor Packhurst with $3 donated this with my Google Play surveys money. That's praxis, comrade. That's fucking praxis. I want more of your Google Play surveys money. Bring in that free fucking dollary do. And Balthazar with the $2. Stairmaster is Cory Booker's stripper name. Shut up. Sean 1 with a 314. Thank you. Can I get a fuck Adam friended? Yes. Also, what is Luxembourgism? I was referred to one the other day, didn't get a straight answer. Also, I have high hopes for a living. I have high hopes for a living too, because I'm also a gay white, or gay-ish at least. Luxembourgism is just the political philosophy defined by those who adhere to the writings of Rosa Luxemburg. I'm not actually, okay, obviously, I'm not actually that familiar with her politics. I know that she was an anti-authoritarian, wasn't she? She was a libertarian socialist, right? Yeah, she was an anti-authoritarian. She was a libertarian socialist. She believed strongly in freedom, communal, that kind of stuff. I think she believed in some really great shit. But I need to know more. I should probably familiarize myself more. Left communist, yeah. So I had criticisms of Lenin. I'm pretty sure Rosa had pretty strong criticisms of authoritarian leftists. Hydronel with the $5. Just finished watching the Sargon debate. I'm suing you for posting that cancer. If I hear "don't interrupt, I didn't say that," or generally Sargon's bitchy voice again, I'm going to kill myself in Minecraft. You should leave this stream, comrade. You should leave this stream right now. Just saying. I want to be responsible for your suicide. Karen is my waifu with the $5. Love your content, buddy. Thank you. And Jack Attack LP with the $5. Between this and the other dono that didn't go through during the debate, you should be able to afford a fat recovery blunt. I'm watching the VOD 3 times. You've watched the VOD 3 times? Jack Attack LP, that's self-harm. Don't put yourself through that. Don't do that. Don't do that. And Hydrona with the $5. Thank you. The additional $5. I feel like after going through the VOD and recovering how much time each of you talked and how much each of you are actually interrupted, pay for my cancer therapy after. Listen, if you want to go through and actually catalog all of that, I encourage you to do so, because that would be pretty goddamn interesting. Though I'm about to say some stuff that might render the results of that survey or study or research moot. So we'll see that, huh? Okay, folks, we're not putting it back anymore. We can't delay a moment longer. Are you ready? Wait, why is my camera so blown out? That looks better. I gotta adjust the ISO settings properly. My beautiful friends, hello. It is me, Debate Lord, Vosh. I have pretty high standards for my performance when I debate other people on this channel because I think that I'm generally pretty good at debate. For the most part, I think I'm pretty decent at debate. I've handled myself well in situations that were difficult and trying. I've spoken in person with Jesse Lee Peterson, handled myself well. I've dealt with the Nazis of the Killstream, handled myself well. But we all make mistakes. And I think that my most recent debate, the one that I did 2 days ago with Sargon, was lacking in its performance. So I want to clarify what exactly I mean by that. By lacking in performance, I mean that I didn't hold up to the standards that I typically hold myself to for debate. That happens. What I don't mean, and I should be very clear about this, is that I feel I lost the debate. Because if anyone going through that actually paid attention to the points that were being made, I think it's pretty clear that Sargon got his ass blown the fuck out. But that's the problem. The people who pay attention to points being made are the types of people who are already a part of my audience. And my goal isn't just to appeal to my audience. My goal isn't to just talk with him and then run back to my community. Oh, hey guys, did you know, I showed you something really great. Did you know that Sargon of Akkad isn't very intelligent and lies a lot? My goal isn't exactly to dazzle my audience with this. My goal is to reach people who would have otherwise agreed with Sargon, to bring people over to my side. And in that respect, I failed completely. And that's why I say I underperformed. Much in the same way, it's 2 simultaneous goals. Winning a debate and winning the audience are not necessarily always the same things. Whether or not they overlap depends pretty much exclusively with how good faith the conversation is held in. In a very bad faith conversation, there can often be a really severe disconnect between the technical procession of arguments throughout the course of the events of the debate and who's believed to have won at the end. So again, my goal is to convince people, and I could have done a better job. And at first I thought, oh, boo-hoo, sad, woe is me, whatever. I'm not a super self-pitying guy. But then it occurred to me, I'm going to turn fucking dono notifications off. You guys are relentless, and I love you for it. Thank you. But then it occurred to me, this is a phenomenal opportunity. A phenomenal opportunity to do some rhetorical analysis. I've said in the past, if I do another Rhetoric 101 stream, or 102 in this case, I want to go over another debate and point out what could have been done better. What were the thoughts? What were the strategies going in here? And what better debate for me to analyze than my own? Because I know what I was thinking at any given point. So let's get into it. This is kind of a company piece to the Sargon debate itself. If you haven't seen it, this should all still be perfectly comprehensible. If you have seen it, I'm very sorry. I think we can all agree the biggest losers of that debate were the audience. So I want to refer first to broad mistakes that I made. These weren't even made in the debate. These were strategic mistakes. So the first one is the biggest one, okay? I broke my own rule. I've said this before when talking about Steven Crowder. I've said this before when talking about Ben Shapiro. Never debate a bad faith actor when they have the microphone. If you're talking to somebody who is arguing in bad faith and you also don't have control of the environment, things can turn against you very, very quickly. This is the reason why I turned down debating Nick Fuentes on the Kill Stream. That would have been a huge debate for me. I mean, I probably would have gotten even more concurrent viewers than I would have with the Sargon thing, considering how much the Nazi community pays attention to me. But I didn't, because I recognized that I didn't want to be in an environment where Nick Fuentes could make a bad argument and I could attempt to call him out on it, only for the moderators to dogpile me. But I made a critical mistake here. I went into the debate with Sargon knowing that Sargon and Adam Friended, the most vocal moderator, were friends. I knew that. I've previously debated Adam, and after debating Adam, Sargon and Adam made a video together making fun of me. Adam has also demonstrated far-right sympathies in the past. He's defended No Bullshit from his co-host, PSA Sitch, through allegations of No Bullshit being a white nationalist. Really evident allegations, too. This was like PSA Sitch asking, hey, Brooks Heatherly, because that's No Bullshit's name, so 6 months ago, you said this where you call for a white ethno-state. Do you still believe in that? And Brooks Heatherly would say, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. I mean, it was 6 months ago. Who knows? And PSA Sitch would say, you said this. Like, you said this. Do you still believe it? And Adam Friended would be like, come on, man. Hey, calm down. Like, it'd be that kind of thing, you know? Which is kind of what ended up happening here. So I knew that Adam Friended had a bias. That was my bad. And I knew Sargon's a bad faith actor. So again, I shouldn't have entered into this in the first place. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, if Sargon wants to argue again, he can argue on my channel. He's free to come here. He'll get just as much public attention if he argues with me on my channel as he would have if he argued on Adam Friended's channel. I somehow doubt he will, though. So even a subtle moderator bias can substantially impact a debate, especially a bad faith debate, one where the ideas aren't as important as the presentation, one where people will slip away from points, one where people will misdirect or lie about previous positions they've held. So here are some examples, and I'm not going through this as like a woe is me, hear my cry, kind of thing. What I'm talking about is reasons why it's important to recognize the bias of the moderators. Because over the course of my debate with Sargon, my interruptions were silenced, but Sargon's were permitted. Adam Friended threatened to mute me. He would move us away from topics when it was clear Sargon was floundering on them. And at several points, he actively engaged in the debate against me to attack my point. So those things can make it really, really difficult to move through a debate because it looks really bad to argue with the moderators. If you're arguing with the moderators, it makes you look uncouth, uncivil, even if the moderators are acting in bias, because it's very likely the people in the audience who already disagree with you don't see the bias on the part of the moderators. The problem wasn't just the moderators, though. One of the other issues was an incompatibility between my expectations and the way in which the debate was actually being handled. I like going over subjects point by point by point. If you disagree with the point, you can interrupt. If there's something pertinent you have to say specific to a claim another person has made, I think you should be free to interrupt. The reason for this is because the debate format that we actually engaged in, which is when both people talk for like a chunk and then the next person talks for a chunk. If you're arguing with somebody who's arguing in bad faith, you can constantly misdirect and mislead the conversation. Here's an excellent example, and we're going to cover this again in the future. When I'm trying to make a point, I often felt as though Sargon was lying about his actual positions. So I would ask him to clarify. I would say, blah, 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 blah. Do you want to end all immigration to England? Yes, no. And Sargon would pause for a moment, and then he would start talking. He wouldn't answer the yes, no. He would just begin talking. And then after like 20, 30 seconds of him talking about something that had nothing to do with my question, I would interrupt because I hadn't actually made my point yet. The question was just to clarify his position before making my point so he couldn't later duck out and say he didn't believe what I was attacking. But because I gave him that opportunity to speak, and because the moderators treat all speech as equally valid, not just pertinent speech, giving him the floor under any circumstances allows him an opportunity to gish gallop or run away or pivot to another point. And the biggest problem with my with my performance during the discussion, unquestionably, I think we can all agree, is that I got angry. I do get angry. There's no denying that. Usually, I try to keep my anger a little bit more productive. In that instance, I got pretty mad. Sargon is a pretty infuriating person. That's actually kind of his shtick. Sargon's shtick is being smug and posh and unbearably stupid. That's kind of what that's like his thing, you know? That's how he does it. His goal is just to look there and smile and do like the anime laugh when he doesn't have an answer to a point. And that's how he handles his debates. It's remarkably effective. I mean, credit where credit is due. I don't know if he deliberately cultivated this style of debate because he knew it worked with his audience, or if he's just naturally like that. I genuinely do not know. But it's very effective for people who have no understanding or even interest in actual politics, but just like seeing SJWs getting owned. It's very, very effective for that. And that's ultimately the biggest issue. I probably, at some points during that discussion, just came off like a triggered SJW, which is one of the stereotypes I try to avoid pushing myself into in this channel. I think for the most part I avoid it, but sometimes if you're angry or upset, even if it's justly angry or upset, in the eyes of people who disagree with you, especially the anti-SJW crowd, you're going to come off that way to them. What are you going to do? So, what we're going to do, my friends, I have prepared for you something. Are you ready? I have prepared for you. I have subjected myself to unimaginable torment and gone over the entire debate again. I know. And I have found some key points that I've timestamped that we're going to go over and specifically discuss what I could have done better. So this is not a victory lap. My goal here isn't to go over and say, oh, actually, I was right this entire time. If you just look at it objectively, you would. If you could just look past your emotions, you'd see, obviously, I won. That's not really the goal here. I think that having watched the debate a second time, I did a lot better than I thought that I did. When I first came off that debate, I was flustered. I felt angry. I thought, oh, geez, I could have done a lot better there. I'll be better next time. Watching it a second time, I actually, in many parts, performed much better than I thought I did. The first half hour was a meaningless semantic argument, and the last half hour was them continuously bringing up topics I wasn't interested in discussing, and then, like, me trying to leave because I thought I was told the debate was going to be 2 hours from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. So when we were in the when we were on the 3rd hour and 30th minute, I didn't know, like I actually had things to do that day, you know? I don't know why they would have specifically told me it was from 1 to 3. If they had no time constraint and they could have just said like 1 until whenever you guys want to talk. I don't know. I also was never told the debate was supposed to be capitalism versus socialism. I wasn't given a debate topic at all. It's weird to me they presented it that way when in DMs with Adam and in emails with Adam, I don't believe I was ever presented any information to indicate that, which was a little bit strange. I could have brought a lot more data to the table if I had known there was a specific topic we were going to go over. Whatever the case may be, before we get into it, and we're going to get into it, there's one thing you have to know, and that's what civility politics are. Civility politics is either the act of engaging in or the nature of discussion in which the way in which you present your arguments is more important than the argument itself. So, have you ever seen this image? We've all seen this image, right? So this is basically how civility politics works. The joke here, the joke of this image, is that the person on the left is correct. It's true, people should be treated like humans. And it's true, you shouldn't murder millions of people. But the person on the right, Adolf Schmittler over there, is very calm and controlled with his speech. And for that reason, he comes off as a lot more hinged, a lot more reasonable, even though he's incorrect. This is a classic image, okay? Quality. I'm pretty. This is like poli-sci, like 400 material right here. I had to write a thesis on this meme image right here. And that's essentially what civility politics are. So, over the course of the discussion, in a purely factual sense, I think I did really well. Just in terms of the the salience of the arguments presented, their validity, the soundness, how well they added up to the conclusion I was trying to push. I think I did really well. In terms of optics, I did really poorly. Sargon did much better than I did in terms of optics, which was admittedly easier for him with the moderators on his side and without the burden of having to make any arguments on his side. But that's, again, my fault. I agreed to the discussion. There's no sense in complaining about the way in which a discussion is framed when you had the ability to not go into it. All I can do is improve my performance, so that's all I'm going to do. Let's do it, folks. Let's get into the key moments. Can you quickly go over the Sympathy for Vosh video? Oh, there's no point, and I don't like reciprocal content. After the debate with Sargon, he made a video called Sympathy for Vosh, where he was saying stuff like, oh, pity Vosh, we've all been there, we've all been really flustered and excited to meet your internet hero, something along those lines. It's really juvenile, like reductive trash. I think I can say that pretty fairly, right? When you come off a debate and you're like, huh, oh yeah, we should all feel bad for him. Funnily enough, I skimmed through it, and most of the video was him complaining about me yelling at him a lot. So for a video that was titled Sympathy for Vosh, he seemed way more interested in cultivating sympathy for him against the big, bad, mean, loud voice, aggressive Vosh. So maybe he mistitled it. Maybe he was actually looking for sympathy for himself. I don't know if he had any bruises he wanted other people to, apply some boo-boo juice onto. I don't really know. But I don't plan on going over that because there's A, no content, and B, I don't like this reciprocal content thing. For example, when I had that debate with Adam Friended to begin with, Sargon then posted a big YouTube comment responding to my debate with Adam Friended, which I did a video on because it was the first time I was acknowledged by Sargon. And then Sargon and Adam Friended got on a podcast to do a video reviewing the video that I did and the comments Sargon posted in response to the debate I had with Adam Friended. And then people invited me to do a video in the stream that they did on the YouTube video that I did, on the YouTube comment that Sargon left under the video that I did debating Adam Friended. You have to stop eventually. You have to stop. Eventually you have to stop. This recursive content loop is very uninteresting to me. You know what is interesting to me? Specific examples. Let's go over this, comrades. Incoherent. One big point, by the way, I need to bring this up immediately because I didn't know this at the time. Apparently, Sargon's microphone was much, much lower than mine. Much lower than mine. I didn't know that. I don't know if I'm just innately bad at it. I'm not very good at tuning audio levels. My microphone settings were the same that they always are for my streams. I didn't change anything. If anything, I turned them down. I don't know why Sargon's microphone was so fucking quiet. It's going to be quiet even here in my video of it. I just have no idea. I don't know why. Adam Friended multiple times told me to turn my microphone down, but never told Sargon to turn his mic up. I don't know. It was really weird. I was actually rather hoping we could sort of codify what it is you actually believe so I know what positions I should be attacking.
Sure, I'm an English liberal, so I believe in constitutional values, free markets, personal freedoms, innate human rights, things like that.
Right. Open borders, free economic trade.
No.
So not a classical liberal.
Well, no, not open borders at the very least.
Or at the very least, lax immigration to allow markets, people, and labor to flow freely across borders to maximize economic output?
Well, it depends what you're trying to achieve, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Lately you've been going on a bit about those Muslim rape gangs. I was wondering why.
I'm opposed to Muslim rape gangs.
Okay, that's fair and reasonable. Do you have a
Thank you.
problem broadly with the non-rapey Muslim refugees and asylum seekers that have entered the UK?
There haven't really been any.
There have been no non-rapey Muslim asylum seekers and refugees that have entered the UK.
There haven't really been any refugees or asylum seekers. That's what the Calais jungle's about. The Conservative government wouldn't let them in. They let something like, I don't know, 2,000 in, but that's a very small number.
The last time I checked, the number of refugees and asylum seekers that are currently in your country was to the tune of 180,000.
Really?
Obviously, not
Where
all
did
of
you
those
get
from the
that
Syrian refugee crisis, but
where did you get that information from?
yeah, so that's part number one. So I made several really big mistakes here that I want to point out. Adam Friend had asked you to turn your mic down. Sargon said he couldn't turn us up anymore. I don't know why Sargon's maximum microphone volume is so low, but I was turning my microphone volume down the entire time. I don't know, like, how low I need to go. So, several huge mistakes here. Initially, I asked Sargon what his positions were, and then I immediately jumped on him and attacked the positions that he held without any further elaboration. So he said, I'm an English liberal, da da da. And then I said, open borders, free markets. And he's like, well, not necessarily. Well, at least to maximize free trade. I was immediately critiquing him, not for positions that he held, but without any arguments to supplement my point. So if I ask a person, what do you believe in? And they're like, oh, I'm blah, 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 blah. And I go, oh yeah? You're a blah, 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 huh? Okay. That's really, really bad debate form. I preempted his answers. I immediately attempted to get a gotcha on him, to impugn him for his positions without making any arguments. So this is something that's always very important to keep in mind. You should, under every circumstance, only attack positions after they're proven stupid or hypocritical, not before. Don't ever attack them before. It makes you seem close-minded. It makes it seem like you're desperate to get a gotcha on your opponent. It makes it seem like you don't actually have any arguments to supplement your point. Before anything else, before there was any moderator bias, I acted in bad faith. You shouldn't do that, and nor should I. Additionally, I should have had stats on hand more evidently. When he asked me at the end there, on hand for the number of refugees and asylum seekers currently in the United Kingdom, he said there were like a few thousand. I don't know where he got that statistic from, and I couldn't find this on the fly, which is my fault. But here, how many refugees are there in the UK? Here, according to UNHCR statistics, in 2018, there were 126,000 refugees, 45,000 pending asylum cases, and 125 stateless persons. So altogether, this adds up to about 170,000, which I think is close enough to the 180,000 that I ballparked to effectively be a correct point. But a correct point, it means nothing if you don't have the data to back it up. So that's data that I should have had on hand, unquestionably. Here we go. This is a really big one that happened very often over the course of the debate. Listen.
Seekers.
Okay, so your issue here isn't with refugees or asylum seekers then. It's with immigration in general.
What issue do I have?
I'm asking you that. You said there were Muslim rape gangs.
Well, you've assumed that I have an issue. Then what is it?
You said you had an issue with them when I asked you if you did. I'm asking you why.
That's not anything that I think anyone of any reasonable moral fiber would object to, is it?
Okay, well then let's clarify.
Everyone has an issue with rape gangs, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. The issue is, what do we do with that problem? When I think we have an issue with rape gangs, for example, I try to examine the socioeconomic causes that sort of underpin whatever it is that's leading to those attacks. There are obviously a lot of such that lead to the problems that Europe has been having in general. But I think that
hang on, before we gallivant on, what do you think the causes are?
For the immigration that you're dealing with? So this goes on for a little while. This was a huge faux pas on my part, not in terms of bad faith optics or whatever, but in terms of debate strategy. So initially, Sargon claimed he had a problem with immigration. And then I said, okay, here's your problem with immigration. And he said he didn't have a problem with immigration. Then he asked me to tell him what I thought his problem was with immigration. And then he admitted he does indeed have a problem with immigration. So that is a bit of an issue. You should never put your opponent in a position to force you to define their argument for them. This is a very classic game. Sargon in particular loves to do this because it helps him avoid sticking to a particular point. If he tricks you into attempting to give you his position on an issue, he can dance away from it, say it's not actually what he believes. And then he can dance back to it later, rephrasing it very slightly in a way that makes it sound as though your initial characterization was inaccurate, even if it was spot on. It's a classic game of define my position for me so I can take issue with it, no matter how you define it. And a proper response to this, always, is forcing them to define their positions. You can just say, like, hey, I didn't come here to read your mind. I'm here to debate your position. Why don't you tell me your position on immigration, and we can discuss your position. I'm not interested in mind reading. I'm not interested in playing games or guessing as to what your position is. You tell me. You always have to be clear with that.
What do you think the causes are?
For the immigration that you're dealing with there?
Muslim rape gangs.
Are we talking about legal immigrants or asylum seekers and refugees?
We're talking about legal immigrants.
Okay. Well, I think a predominant issue would be that the majority of the legal immigrants that you're seeing from the countries that have Muslim majority populations are young. There are a lot of young men coming in. Young men have a disproportionate rate of crimes committed, no matter what demographics you're looking at. In fact, I think for the UK, 9% of the population, which is young men between the ages of 18 and 34, committed about 50% of the violent crimes over the past 10-year period. So whether or not they're Muslim, having people who come in who are disproportionately young is invariably going to lead to a disproportional rate of crime being committed by that population. Well, we have the same issue here in America with Mexicans.
Okay, yep. I mean, I agree with you on that point. That is true. Mm-hmm. But the problem with the grooming gangs is there's a particular set of characteristics that identify them and separate them from other forms of crime. And when looking for these particular gangs with these particular characteristics, it seems that it's essentially based in identity.
So this is a huge dog whistle. He's saying it's an ethnicity thing, essentially, that it's a Pakistani thing. I think Paki is a slur to the English, right? I think it is. I think chat corrected me on that before. It's a Pakistani thing. I made several mistakes here, pretty big ones at that. So for one, I should have asked specifically for data on this issue that proves that the rape gangs or grooming gangs, noticed how he changed from rape to grooming? Noticed how he kind of switched that? I should have provided or asked for data on that subject specifically, or asked him why the fact that young men disproportionately commit those crimes isn't relevant to his characterization of those groups. After all, if rape is disproportionately committed by young men, which, yeah, I mean, yeah. So too would grooming, correct? I mean, if young men commit the vast majority of violent crimes and the vast majority of sexual crimes, it seems likely to me then that addressing the problem of young men could indeed be a viable solution to whatever issues a country is having with rape or grooming gangs. The real issue here, though, ultimately, is that I shouldn't have engaged with any of this far-right paranoia. What is a rape gang? What is a grooming gang? I know these things exist. They've existed, I think, basically for as long as human civilization, probably even earlier, has. But, like, where's the data on this? What does this mean? How much is this happening? I have never seen any data on, like, the increase of grooming in the United Kingdom. I've seen an increase in sexual crimes. Is grooming a crime? What do we? I don't even know. And that was my issue. I should have forced him to clarify what specifically he was referring to, or to provide data on this. Grooming gangs are reported in UK newspapers. No, I'm aware of that. So let me see the data so I can provide an answer to that. What do we mean by grooming gangs? Is this all Huddersfield grooming gang? Wait, I'm not saying these groups don't exist. I'm saying that in the context of the debate, I should have forced him to commit to a specific set of definitions and explain to me how what a grooming gang is has nothing to do with the characterization that young men disproportionately commit violent sexual crimes. Wait, what is this? This is just a single grooming gang. Am I being dog whistled at right now? Wait, what? I just said grooming gangs have existed since the beginning of time. I'm not denying that they exist. What are we looking at right now? Large gang, men were charged in 3 separate trials. Contempt of court. Yeah, the Tommy Robinson thing. 27 men were accused of sexual offenses, including rape and trafficking. Oh, rape and trafficking. 2 crimes that young men disproportionately commit. Most of these are young men. I see one man who's 35 here. The rest of them are in their 20s or early 30s. So yeah, my point would have been perfectly cogent here. This is an issue. This is obviously something young men are doing. He said that there was a particular identity that was committing these crimes. And, obviously immigrants do have certain problems considering how they integrate into society and what types of crimes they commit. But if our goal is to reduce crime and reduce sexual violence in a society, then we could do that by keeping young men out of the country. We can just let older men or children or young women in. That can be what we do. Or older people of any gender, I suppose. So that's an important point that I should have made. By getting locked into this weird, esoteric, non-specific defense of like some vague type of crime that I have no data or numbers on and don't know how it relates to the broader talking points, with him switching from rape to grooming gangs, it makes it very difficult for me to form strong alternative talking points. Now, here's the biggest mistake that I made in the entire debate, okay? It all goes uphill from this point. This point is the worst. This is the nadir of the debate right here. Let's go to this.
What are you proposing exactly? And what do you think I'm proposing?
Well, you ran with UKIP. We can go over this point by point because there's going to be a lot to go over here. Okay, cutting down on immigration.
Sorry, before we go on, what are you proposing exactly?
So what am I proposing exactly in regards to immigration is the question here.
And what do you think I'm proposing?
What I think he's proposing is irrelevant. Again, anytime he asks me to define his position, I should call him a coward and tell him to define his own positions, because that's what I'm doing. Well, you ran with UKIP, so you've already run with pretty far-right groups who are interested in curtailing Islamic immigration. So this was a 100% unnecessary invocation of UKIP on my part. Up until this point, UKIP hasn't come up once. It just sprung to the top of my mind. In a debate with a person like Sargon, it is very important to stay on task, because if you ever introduce any subject that he can cling to, like a piece of driftwood or a life raft, if you ever give him anything, he will jump immediately onto that point to avoid dealing with the actual point. Anytime, he will desperately grasp at anything he can use, any excuse.
Not far right.
I apologize. You're right. The UKIP was literally left by Nigel Farage around the time you came in because they were moving too far right. So Nigel Farage was one of the party founders of UKIP, and he denounced UKIP as going too far right, which is one of the reasons why he left it. It's true, by the way. Sargon's characterization of UKIP as centrist is ludicrous. UKIP employed a bunch of far-right MPs and brought on a party leader who was himself pretty far right. Sargon himself opposes like all Islamic immigration into his country. I wouldn't consider that a centrist point. But again, it's irrelevant. I shouldn't have brought up UKIP. So that's not my characterization, that's his.
Hang on. Yeah, but you've got to understand the nature of the meaning that's within the terms that are being used here. That far right is effectively a dog whistle to say not politically correct.
Okay, far right is a dog whistle for not politically correct. So for one, that's not what a dog whistle means. A dog whistle is meant to be a form of a variable. It's a language which has variable interpretation, interpreted as innocuous by the majority, but as something specific and politically aligned to a minority. That's not what a dog whistle is. This is also, by the way, the exact same argument as anti-racist is a code word for anti-white. It's the same argument. It's a way of dishonestly redefining political terminology to try to move the Overton window further towards you. So far right doesn't mean anything. Far right just means that you're not politically correct. Anti-racist doesn't mean anything. It means you're anti-white. It's the same basic tactic. But once again, I mishandle this severely. A dog whistle.
For example,
I'm not politically correct. Do you think I'm far right?
No, I don't, but that's not my characterization.
No, I don't, but that's not my characterization. So Sargon just told me that a far right is a dog whistle for not politically correct. He told me how he characterized that term. And then, when I called him out on that and said, I'm not politically correct, would you call me far right? He said, no, that's not my characterization. I don't call him out on this at any point during the debate.
But like, for example, the TERFs are far right at this point. The Posey Parkers and people like that. People who don't agree with transgender ideology are considered far right now.
It really depends on the way in which they engage in those things. But now you're ascribing to me positions I don't hold. When I say UKIP is far right, I'm saying it because Nigel Farage, you're mischaracterizing my position.
I'm not ascribing a position to you. Mm-hmm. I'm letting you know that because...
Notice that even early in the debate, that was an example of him interrupting me while it was my turn to speak and the moderators did nothing. He continued to do so for like 5 to 10 seconds before I eventually stopped and let him talk, which I really shouldn't have, honestly.
You're not from this country. You don't understand the sort of tenor of the dialogue that is...
Is Nigel Farage from your country?
Yes, but Nigel Farage...
Nigel Farage left UKIP after Tommy Robinson was appointed.
Can I finish what I'm saying?
Because it was a far-right party, too far right for him.
Can I finish what I'm saying?
You're free to.
I'm not, because you keep interrupting me.
My apologies.
Nigel Farage is not far-right either. Far-right is a dog whistle term to say not acceptable within politically correct politics. That puts a lot of people in this regard. And when people want to avoid the beating stick that the media use against these people, they say, oh no, I'm not with them, they're far right. This is what Nigel Farage is
sort of like how anti-racist is a code word for anti-right.
Sorry, it's a code word for what?
Anti-white. Do you believe that characterization, that anti-racist is a code word for anti-right?
Anti-racist is code for anti-white? I think they usually, don't they?
I don't think he understands the point that I'm trying to make.
Usually say diversity is usually a code word for anti-white.
They say both, and by they I mean neo-Nazis.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, so you're essentially making the same argument, that you can't claim anything is far right because far white is used to describe anyone who isn't on the left.
It depends what you think is far right. What does far right mean in your definition?
So, yeah, I don't know why I kept saying far right and far white. I have no idea why I kept stammering over those two words. Listen, they sound alike, okay? You know what? Autism. That's my claim. Whatever the case may be. So this is already a gigantic waste of time, arguing over whether or not far right means what, anything. All of this was because I brought up UKIP. So Sargon has now successfully, for like 3 minutes, diverted this discussion away from the actual topic at hand and towards whether or not Nigel Farage's characterization of UKIP as far right is legitimate. It's a massive waste of time, and it benefits him because he will invariably, by way of him already being UKIP's like premier fail-son, be familiar with many arguments that he can use against whatever points I have on UKIP. He's already prepared to discuss these subjects specifically. So this is something I should have avoided entirely. I shouldn't have brought up UKIP to begin with. And if he wanted to argue over the definition of far right, I probably should have just said immediately, like, far right isn't a dog whistle. It's just a description of a political position relative to where you are. It's a matter of perspective. There are tons of words that invoke perspective. Words like good or bad. If you would rather I not use terms like that, sure, but I was quoting not Tommy Robinson, I was quoting Nigel Farage on that point. Whether or not something is far right obviously depends on the political predilections of the person who is using that term. When I used it, I was referring to the description of Nigel Farage, a popular politician who lives in your country and is familiar with the language you use, who described UKIP as too far right for him after Tommy Robinson was appointed, a man you defended after his arrest around the same time you came in as one of their MPs. So when I say UKIP is a far right party, I am in fact quoting one of its founders and a prominent politician in Britbongerland itself. If you disagree with that characterization, that's fine.
Richard Spencer is a progressive then, because he claims to be a progressive.
That has nothing to do with what I said. We didn't even get to talk about the Richard Spencer progressive thing, but apparently Sargon interprets words can refer to one's perspective as words have no meaning. That's an excellent. I would love to get into that. Do you know what the word progressive means?
I don't care. Richard Spencer claims he's a progressive. By your logic, then he is a progressive, and Nigel Farage is right that UKIP's far right.
Did anything about my logic just say that words have no meanings and anyone can describe themselves to mean anything without any consideration?
Yes.
So because you disagree with Nigel Farage's characterization of the party that he helped create...
How about we don't worry about Nigel Farage's characterization? Why don't you just define far right?
It's strange to me that you... This goes on for 20 minutes. This goes on forever. I'm going to summarize a little bit of what happened from this point forward, because it never actually ends. That's actually like legitimately like 20 minutes after that point. So after the point where we just saw, he claims that in addition to far right being a dog whistle for not being progressive, he also claims the term far right means nothing because it doesn't have an objective definition, which is meaningless, of course. He said that it's an expression of power. I don't know what exactly that means in regards to a definition of a word. I will never know what goes on in Sargon's head. And then he claims that I was making a fallacious appeal to authority by claiming that Nigel Farage called UKIP far right. And then we argued over the definition of a fallacious appeal to authority. And that took quite a while. And I've actually seen a lot of people online arguing over whether or not I was wrong in my explanation as to what a fallacious appeal to authority is. So just in case people don't know, really quickly, quoting a person's opinion on a subject is not a fallacious appeal to authority. A fallacious appeal to authority is when you claim that a conclusion is correct because an authority figure believes that it is correct. The extent to which the authority figure's opinion affects your premises leading to that conclusion can affect the extent to which it is fallacious. So here's an example. If I say Brad Pitt believes global warming is true, therefore global warming is true, that's obviously fallacious. However, if I say Hendrik Nielsen, who spent 69 and a half years studying climate change and is respected by all the world-renowned scientific institutions, has claimed with unequivocal confidence that climate change is in fact a problem, citing that is in fact a pretty strong support of the argument that climate change is real. Now, it doesn't mean factually that climate change is real. The opinion of whatever name I just made up, isn't in and of itself concrete 100% deductive evidence. However, it strongly supports the argument that is being made. This is especially the case when you're dealing with subjective value determinations, because you see there is no way to objectively determine whether or not something is far right, because that's a perspective matter. You don't know that factually. Like, how could you, right? It's a matter of what people collectively kind of decide relative to common politics. When we're talking about characterizations that don't have an empirical basis, often we have to rely on people's opinions, because it is opinions through which those perspectives are defined. And citing the opinion of somebody on a matter to support a conclusion is not inherently fallacious. After all, if the act, let's keep this in mind, if the act of supporting a conclusion because an authority figure agrees with you on it is inherently fallacious, that would mean going online and checking Wikipedia for the definition of an appeal to authority fallacy and then using that to explain that something is an appeal to authority would itself be fallacious, because you're citing your conclusion as true because an authority figure agrees with it. Just pointing that out. I don't know why so many people are confused on this point. It's the fallacy bros. They're coming after me, but that's okay. Just clearing up any confusion in case anyone was interested. So, in regards to the broader points the Sargon was making, you should never engage in these semantic arguments. You just shouldn't. Flat out, period. I shouldn't have brought up UKIP. I shouldn't have engaged with what the definition of far right was. None of this was relevant to what we were discussing before, which was immigration. I should have flatly said, I feel as though we're getting into a semantics argument. We have different definitions of far right. From now on, let's just discuss policy. The longer you let him go down the semantics train, the more like distance you get from the original arguments. And he thrives in the semantics arguments because Sargon of Akkad doesn't actually believe in anything, as evidenced by the fact that he believes quoting somebody to support an argument that UKIP is far right is the same as believing that Richard Spencer is a progressive because Richard Spencer says that he's a progressive. He doesn't actually believe anything, so you should just avoid those arguments. Now, this big what do we call it? Far right portion of the debate is probably the worst part of it. I think if you can get past the first 30 minutes, you get past the worst elements of this debate. Here's an example of me getting way the fuck too heated. I've seen infographics meant to be digested by 8th graders that have a more nuanced understanding of this topic than he does. But that's okay. We can move on. What I'm more interested in, because I don't know why like you're posturing so hard on the definition of far right, is while we're speaking on the definition of words.
Hang on. Right, hang on. Right.
So it doesn't really matter what point I'm trying to make. That just looks really bad. If I open the part that I begin with at the very beginning there, if at the very beginning, when I said I've seen like 8th graders digest this information better than you, that part is fine. That part is acceptable. And again, under normal circumstances, it would be fine for me to be angry and posturing, which is undeniably what I was doing there. The problem is, this isn't the kill stream. I'm not bringing some random dipshit blood sporter on. Sargon doesn't do internet blood sports. When he does debates, he sits there and says stupid things very smugly. He needs to be handled differently. So these like attempted blowouts, more often than not, blow up in my face. And this was an example of me just being angry. So I shouldn't have done that. Things start to peter out a little bit better after the 30-minute mark, and his bad arguments begin a little bit more to become a little bit more evident. But that doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes.
Cool. Okay, so what would be the critique of capitalism be from the libertarian socialist position? What's the problem with capitalism?
That's the thing. I love freedom. Do you like freedom?
Depends what you mean by freedom.
Oh, interesting. Do you like democracy?
Too soon to tell.
I should have hit him on this, by the way. For Sargon to admit he genuinely like doesn't care about freedom and democracy, these are like huge blows to his points. He talks all the time about freedom of speech and the anti-democratic left. There's nothing about Sargon of Akkad that's liberal. So I should have hammered him way harder on this. I should have said immediately, like, if you don't believe in freedom or democracy, then obviously my ideas aren't going to work to you. Interesting. Okay, so you're not a liberal of any kind then. Those are basic tenets of liberal philosophy. Okay, well,
no,
because I respect...
They are modern positions that liberals hold.
No. So he lies right here. This is important for me to pick up on. Liberalism is the political philosophy derived from Enlightenment thinkers, and the Enlightenment thinkers derive their politics from the environment in which they were raised, that being monarchy and divine right. If we Google right now, liberalism, see here? A political and moral philosophy based on liberty or freedom, consent of the governed, or democracy, and equality before the law. We can even see it right down here again. We've got democracy, we've got free markets, which earlier I criticized him for not believing in. We've got freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion. These are pretty essential tenets of liberal philosophy. So for him to backpedal on this is pretty cringe, bro. But I didn't push him on it nearly hard enough. And you can see that here. No, the Enlightenment literally codified the philosophical...
People are still saying your volume is crazy loud by comparison.
I am pulling that microphone away from my mouth, but here, I'll try to...
Do me a favor and take that microphone in your other room and close the door.
A little bit of moderator-opponent banter there. There you go.
Liberalism evolved before democracy.
Liberalism evolved before democracy. I genuinely don't know what that means. The first experiment in liberalism that we saw in like a big political setting was the United States of America. That's one of the reasons why Napoleon praised Washington when he stepped down after his second term in office, because the idea of an official stepping down to allow another one to be voted in is what was insane at the time. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that the liberal thinkers all got together and like the Dragon Ball Z transformation dance and turned into like the spirit of democracy, which then swept the world. But the links between these concepts are incontrovertible. Evolved before democracy, and then democracy was created by those involved in the foundation of liberalism. It was a response to the idea of the divine right of kings. Enlightenment thinkers were the ones to postulate that a neoclassical approach to society, one which valued things such as democracy, freedom, and fair trade, was a more ethical way to arrange human society than the monarchies that were previously prominent. It was the founders of the Enlightenment who proposed this.
To answer your question more accurately, when you say democracy, I interpreted that as universal suffrage, but you don't mean that, do you?
Democracy and universal suffrage do not mean the same things. America has been democratic since its foundation, but it has not had universal suffrage. But that's a little bit interesting right there. And this is something that I'm only actually picking up on right now. If Sargon interpreted democracy as universal suffrage, and I asked him how he felt about democracy, and he said too soon to tell, what group of people is he thinking don't deserve the right to vote, which currently enjoy it? I actually didn't pick up on that the first time I watched the VOD. Something to think about, maybe. He pivots in this again later. Today. I'm saying it's the reason why the Enlightenment thinkers sort of came up with laissez-faire capitalism. The idea was by allowing market trade to happen amongst individuals with limited involvement by the government, you would afford people the economic freedom necessary to have an actual functionally democratic society. I believe we failed. This is a consistent issue that I have, by the way. I do talk a lot. I should have learned to make my points a little bit more expedient. I rambled so much, mostly because I was heated and I thought the mods were like biased in his favor, but often I could have made points in half the time that I did, which would have made me look a lot better.
Actually about democracy, because this came before democracy, and the term laissez-faire came from the Chancellor of Louis XIV, when he understood that kingdoms...
It's another pivot. I don't know how to deal with these. Look at how frustrated I look. Look at me.
Chancellor
Look at me.
Of Louis XIV, when he understood that a kingdom's glory came from its wealth, and so I can't remember the chancellor's name, but he was asking them, well, what?
Look at me. I'm like actually baffled. I'm talking about what are characteristics of liberalism, and then he starts going on about how the term laissez-faire existed before the Enlightenment, which which is utterly irrelevant to what we're discussing. It has literally nothing to do with the subject at hand, but I didn't handle it very well. Again, every single time that I complain about a position he holds or a way in which he pivots or something, this is a fault on my part. I'm a big boy. I'm an adult. I should be able to handle all of the stupidity that he throws my way. Now, the next big chunk of discussion that we had was on democracy, economic freedom, and worker cooperatives. Do you think he does this on purpose, or is he just dumb? It's both. He does it deliberately because it works, but he's also a very unintelligent person. So the next big chunk we did was on democracy, economic freedom, and co-ops. In this respect, I think I did a really fucking good job. I think I did a very good job at this point of the debate. And celebrating successes is as important as criticizing failures. Otherwise, you only know what you're doing wrong, you don't know what you're doing right. So here's the basic procession of how things happened in this chunk of the conversation. I claim that democracy is good and it should be implemented in workplaces. Sargon's counterclaim is that democracy only really functions if you're stuck there. I mean, it seems like a non sequitur, but I'll respond to it anyway. I don't even need to ask him why that's the case. I can provide a counterexample. I provide the counterclaim that there are countries in the EU that you can freely leave, so you're not stuck there at all, such as land-adjacent EU countries, like Germany. If you're in Germany, you can walk to France. If I'm not mistaken, you can just walk. That's one of the provisions of the EU, of the European Union. You can just leave a country if you want to. It doesn't make you a citizen of the other country, but you can just leave. It's not like here in America, you don't have to deal with like border guards or anything. Well, you can give them like the finger guns, but you can just walk out. But in spite of the fact that you can just leave, we still want democracy in those countries, don't we? I asked him if he would want to return to the Kaiser in Germany, and he said no. So, okay, there's that point gone. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're stuck in an area. Sargon says, well, it's not really fair. You just can't leave a nation. There are other barriers. There are other obstacles, like economic ones. And I say the same is the case with a job. In a job, there are obstacles that can prevent you from just leaving. It's funny because when I make that point, and this is one of the ways in which Sargon really displays his contempt for the workers. When I make that point, when I say, well, you can't just leave jobs either, he says, what, are there people who don't like their jobs? Or something along those lines, He's trying to introduce this frivolity to the idea that people might be stuck in jobs they hate. I should have called him out harder on that. I actually, you know what? I don't think I needed to. I think I did just fine. Sargon claims democracy isn't that good anyway. I provide him a data sheet on the significant material benefits of worker co-ops. Sargon asks, if they're so great, why aren't they everywhere already? And I explain that systemic bias exists against worker co-ops and they need advocacy. And I also pointed out systems which are currently everywhere didn't spread naturally in old systems either. If laissez-faire capitalism is so economically efficient, why didn't it just take over feudal era mercantilist capitalism? Why did mercantilist capitalism survive for hundreds of years without the substantially more efficient and more productive laissez-faire capitalism taking over? The reason for this, of course, is because there are systemic obstacles to new economic systems taking the place of old ones, because the old guard, the people currently in power, are invested in how the system works today. And then Sargon kept repeating that I hadn't explained to him why worker co-ops weren't everywhere already. I think I should have cut that portion of the discussion off earlier because he was just repeating the same argument that I had already given an answer to, but I think I handled that portion really fucking well. I think that portion was excellent. Here.
And if worker co-ops are so much more productive than privately owned business, why don't they just defeat the privately owned businesses?
Because corporations running more efficiently doesn't mean they're going to beat out other industries. That's not how our economy works.
Really? Why not?
Because there are a number of market failures. For example, if you have privately owned corporations, that probably means that whoever owns it is going to be exorbitantly wealthy, at least with the larger corporations. Exorbitantly wealthy people usually have connections with businesses and corporations and
Yes.
politicians. And it is for that reason that there was an enormous amount of lobbying money pumped into Washington every year to specifically favor the financial interests of privately owned corporations, whereas the cooperatively owned corporations have essentially no power in Washington. One of the reasons for this is because the economic stratification that comes alongside private ownership models typically lends itself towards a stratification of power that increases the likelihood of success within a system that already has highly stratified divisions of power. Whereas in a socialist society where there is no such loophole to take advantage of, no such lobbying bids, no backdoor Washington bid cabinet, you could probably, in all likelihood, see a much greater degree of success from worker co-ops because the deck is no longer stacked in favor of privately owned models. That is an example of this debate and my performance at its best right there. I still took a little bit too long, and I probably could have used better language. So rather than me saying stuff like, the economic system as it currently exists subsidizes and acts to the favor of greater stratification of economic power, which leads to those in power taking steps to... I probably could have said, like, I probably could have simplified it. Hey, because the old guard right now are private capitalists. The people who run our government are private capitalists. The people who write our bills are private capitalists. And they like the system the way it works today. That's why our system is kind of sort of run by billionaires. They don't want this system in place, and they'll fight to stop it. And they've been fighting to stop it for decades and centuries, with all the policies they put in place to specifically favor the way private industry works. That would have been a little bit better, I think. But overall, I think that's an example of debate performance at its best in the context of this discussion. And I'm pretty happy with how that segment of the conversation went. So here's another really quick point. Eventually, for some reason, we start talking about Karl Marx. I have no idea why or how or why this happened. He was like, "You're a Marxist, aren't you? Why is that?" And then he started to say that Marx isn't all that good because some of his predictions didn't come true, or something like that. I'm not sure, but
so I'm curious about this because according to this data that I'm looking at, I'll send you across in a second. Firms with fewer than 500 workers account for 99.7% of businesses in the US, and firms with fewer than 20 workers made up 89%. So I can't help but feel that you're conflating the concerns that people working in mega corporations have with the concerns that most people don't have. And I mean, I don't know what, like maybe everyone sat there on the tenterhooks of economic anxiety, but only 25% of the US is actually below the federal poverty level.
We'll get to that in a second. So this was really, really weird to me. I was talking about worker co-ops, and then he randomly brought up that most of the businesses in this country have less than 500 people employed in them. Which was really, I didn't know what relevance this was. Looking back on it now, and this should be something that I could have picked up on then, the point he was trying to make was that he was implying that I was saying that only people who work in mega corporations would benefit from worker co-ops, and that most businesses in the country are small businesses, and therefore the worker co-op model is irrelevant there. Also, the fact that 99.7% of businesses have less than 500 employees doesn't change the fact that more than half of the country works for large businesses. That's how it works, right? It takes 10,000 small businesses to make up for one Amazon or one Walmart or one Boeing, But this is like a really, really weird piece of information. At the time, I didn't know what he meant. I should have asked him to clarify of what relevance are these statistics to what we're talking about. What does this have to do with worker co-ops? I want worker co-ops for people of every business size, But I didn't call him on that. And then we have this lovely point right here.
Anxiety. But only 25% of the US is actually below the federal poverty level. 52%
only
of the
25%?
Yeah.
Only a quarter of the wealthiest country on the planet is below the federal poverty level?
Yeah. First time in human history that's happened.
Okay. I don't know where you set the bar, but That's not acceptable to me.
The US. Let me just check which bureau it was.
I don't actually think the statistic is 25%, but this is absolutely irrelevant. Like 80% of the American population lives paycheck to paycheck. Also, yeah, it's an appeal to authority to say that the federal poverty limit is what actually defines what is or is not the poverty line. Yeah, the poverty line itself is largely irrelevant when we start talking about whether or not people experience conditions circumstance to poverty. But this particular talking point is really, really interesting to me because Sargon will later go on to say that all immigration to the UK should be halted because a 10% increase of immigration in low-paying service work leads to a decrease of up to 2% in the wages of those who already work there. So late, and then he accuses me of being anti-worker for disagreeing with that point. So the dissonance between Sargon saying, oh, well, the system works for most people, whatever, with most of the country here in America living paycheck to paycheck, but then being willing to end immigration over an inconceivably minor wage change in the UK is extraordinary. And I absolutely should have called him out on it harder. How are we doing so far, folks? I know this is a strange stream, but this is important for me. And this is important to you too. Do we feel like we're learning things? Big points that we should go over so far. Big points that we need to acknowledge. We shouldn't engage with semantic arguments. They're a waste of time. We should force our opponent to clarify their positions rather than guessing at them and potentially making wrong or non-specific claims about what we believe they believe. I should take a second to breathe and think. Think very carefully. What are the implications of what they're saying? Don't just respond to a stupid point. Really, really think about what the implications of that language are. Maybe there's something else that can be said here which is a little bit more effective. Be careful about what environments you put yourself in. Moderate your anger. Deal with moderator bias in a way that doesn't look poor to the broader audience. These are really important points for debate, for any kind of public speaking that I think are worthy of analysis. And speaking of that, this is the impossible dilemma I found myself in time and time again.
So all I'm saying is so far I'm not persuaded by your method of argumentation. There's no particular reason to think that worker co-ops are actually any more effective. Otherwise, why wouldn't they all be? This is like very much like the feminists saying, oh, well, women are being paid less than men. If that's the case, how can men ever get a job?
What the Okay, so you believe that all good ideas just automatically supersede bad ideas?
Not automatically, no.
Okay, so remember what I said earlier? Where I ask him a question, a yes-no question, to clarify his position before I dive in and make a point. So the point he's making here is that, well, why haven't co-ops gotten so popular if they're so much more effective? So I ask him, do you think the best position just automatically supersedes other positions? Do you think that the world just always works out with the best idea instantly coming out on top? And then he gives an answer. He says no, which is the only sustainable answer here. But then, okay, so you believe sometimes that good ideas have to be pushed for and advocated
you keep
for.
interrupting him. You ask him a question, you don't let him finish.
It was a yes-no question, and he gave the yes.
No, he wants to clarify.
Other people are in this discussion, Vorsh.
It's you.
They want to talk. Yeah, I know, and I really would like to explain my position.
See, the mods jump in and he gets to jump in and posture when I asked him a yes-no question. This is an impossible dilemma on my part. If I ask him a yes-no question to clarify his position before making my point, I give him time to pivot and run off with the discussion and say a bunch of irrelevant shit, which might end up diverting the argument or allow him to gish gallop. However, if I don't ask him at all, what his position is beforehand. Later, he can say he never held that position. He'll be lying, of course, but the point is to catch him in a lie that has there's a great degree of proximity between the 2 points where he makes incompatible statements. You don't want the incompatible statements to be 20 minutes apart. You want them to be 30 seconds apart. So that's the goal of asking him to clarify his position. So when he gave a yes, or no, or whatever he answered, and I forget, and I immediately stopped him to continue, I feel as though that's not an interruption. I asked him for a yes/no before I continued with my point, but the moderators obviously disagreed. So that's a really, really tough dilemma. A really tough dilemma. And I honestly don't know how to deal with it. What do you do in that position? If you ask for their opinion, they'll go off into the sunset. You can interrupt them, but that can make you look bad, especially if the moderators are against you. And if you don't ask for his position, then you're not attacking a position he'll admit to holding later. I think the best thing that I could do would say, I'm going to assume you don't believe the best position automatically always instantly comes to fruition. With that assumption, you have to acknowledge the fact that throughout history there have been many ideas that are today very functional and very effective that weren't immediately adopted. Things have to change for even good ideas to be adopted. I think that would have been a much, much, much better way of approaching that. Not to ask him yes or no, but to assume the only reasonable answer he could give. And if he argues with that, then I can say, so you do believe then that every good position just automatically happens? Why weren't we born then with mercantile capitalism, ye back in the Macedonian days, or sorry, laissez-faire capitalism? It's an unsustainable point from his end, but it can be hard to pin him on that. Such is life. All right. Okay, this is a particularly infuriating point that I need to work on in the future. So I don't like exploitation. I like people being happy. I like people being productive. I think that the relationship, the employee-employer model very often leads to bad outcomes because I don't think freedom and democracy mean very much if we are tied economically to a system that requires us to essentially be subservient to those who pay for our bread, pay for our rent. Now, obviously...
You're for making that illegal. You're for abolishing that.
I'm for above a certain business size that would be arbitrarily determined by a democratically elected government, all businesses being required to be democratically owned. So at a certain point, you would have to implement some kind of wage threshold to make sure that no person makes so much more than another, and everyone would have the ability to vote on key business decisions. The extent to which this would be possible and the exact ways in which it would be implemented would vary from business to business.
Okay, so what would your ideal cutoff point be?
I don't really have. I mean, I don't know. I feel like 3 people, 4 or 5.
3 people.
I don't care. Why are you trying to hold me down to a number that I don't really care about?
Well, it seems.
Okay, this reminds me a lot of a debate that Destiny had with X Skills Me, where X Skills Me was trying to pin down the exact percentage chance Destiny believed there was a possibility of Trump colluding with Russia. So this is called the semantics of specificity. You don't need to know the exact specific data point in order to have a position on something. If I say, hey, I think we should do more to combat global warming, someone could then come up to me and say, oh yeah, well, what specific amount of our budget, federal budget, do you think should be allocated to that project? And I don't need to give them an answer. That's not necessary. Yeah, it's the continuum fallacy, which I should have just said, frankly, there. It doesn't matter to me specifically whether or not it's 3 people or 10 people that a business would need to have before it would have to be democratically owned. I don't know. I don't care. The specifics of this can be done through policy makers or researchers trying to figure out the best way to implement that system. But if somebody's holding you down to a specific number when it's not really relevant what that number be, well, there you go. The semantics of specificity, or the continuum fallacy, if you want to use the proper term for it. I will say, though, this is a very, very easy one to point out if you find yourself getting caught into it. The only time that it's actually necessary, you have a specific numeric understanding of what should be implemented is if you're a policymaker or if you're discussing those specifics. So if Sargon and I were having a debate on exactly how many people should be allowed to be in a business before it's democratically owned, then that would be a valid question, because that's what we're discussing. But if Sargon's position is, lol, I don't care about workplace democracy, it is utterly irrelevant where I draw the line. Absolutely irrelevant. So that's important to consider. Now, this was a big one. I could have let Sargon walk into a much, much bigger trap here. Well, the population of the world has gone up. That was a bit of a joke there. I hope you had caught that.
The proletariat are the working men, are they not?
Yes, like anyone who's not bourgeois.
Yeah, the industrial workers. Yeah, but that's a much smaller percentage, and they get paid more. So Marx is wrong.
Wait. What percentage of the population do you think is proletariat?
Oh, well, I mean, like, if we're talking just like working class, about 25%.
No. Okay. So Sargon of Akkad doesn't know what proletariat and bourgeois mean. This is the same person who claims to have read Capital back in his college days. Proletariat means those who do not own the means of production, and it would be more in the ballpark, probably, of 99 to 95% of the population.
So the middle class have become the proletariat.
The middle class have always been the proletariat in a Marxian sense. How much do you know about Marx? So this is the problem that I make. I could have let him step into a minefield of traps. A minefield if I hadn't done work for him. I shouldn't have told him what the definition of proletariat was. I should have asked him. I should have just asked him, oh, how much of the population do you think is proletariat? How much of it do you think is bourgeois? Oh, really? The middle class. What exactly did Marx say about the middle class? Did he say they were bourgeois or proletariat? Because I can hang him from his neck on these questions. But instead what I do is I give him the answers to questions I know he doesn't have the answer to, and I end up having a meaningless, middling discussion on what middle class means in reference to Marxian economics. Middle class can mean a lot of things in regards to Marx, but it doesn't fit within his class dynamic. When people refer to Marx's predictions, they're referring to his predictions along the dichotomy of the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. It's utterly irrelevant how the middle class of today, our modern definition of what the middle class means, fits into that system. In truth, the answer is what we refer to as middle class today has more to do with your income than it does your relationship to the means of production. After all, my dad works for a living. That's proletariat, but he makes a decent amount of money. Well, that's still proletariat. You know, whereas there are people who own a business but are themselves quite poor. There are plenty of struggling mom-pop businesses that employ like 6 people, and the owners still take home like $30,000 a year. They are bourgeois. And the fact, well, they're petite bourgeois. And the fact that those two things can be the case is an indication that Marxian economic framework is not meant to be a holistic descriptor of people's economic privilege. You can be bourgeois and be poor. You can be proletariat and be wealthy. That's why we have petite bourgeois and labor aristocracy. But he doesn't know any of this. And I did work for him. I should have immediately demanded he clarify every single definition that he engaged in, because this isn't semantics. When he uses terms, it's not semantics to make sure he actually knows what they mean. And he doesn't, which gives me a huge debate edge if I just let him run off into his own pitfalls. Would have been better handled that way. So, this particular point, I think, is the other, along with the worker co-ops that drags on.
I'm not gonna characterize it as isolationism, but you agree with me that mass immigration has a negative effect on the wages of blue-collar workers.
And a positive effect on many other people. And we can redistribute those gains, ideally.
Yeah, but why would we allow a situation where these people are being hurt in the first place?
Because they're being hurt and helping other people more than they are being hurt, and we can use that help to fix their hurt.
Yeah, but why hurt them in the first place?
This
if
would
they're
be
the
like
people
this
that
is
need
this
the
would be
help?
like this would be like if me and my girlfriend are next to each other and someone proposes to take $5 from me but give her $50, and then
Yeah.
she agrees to it, and I say, well, no, fuck you, I don't want to lose 5, and she says, I can just break you off a tenner, dude, and then I argue
Yeah,
against
but
it anyway.
Do you really trust the capitalists to do that?
I mean, you know who fights harder than anyone else for the rights of lower income workers?
Go on.
It's us. Historically, it's been union leaders, anarchists, and socialists who have fought tirelessly for the low income workers. He doesn't argue against that point, which is one of the. I actually expected him to argue that, but he doesn't. To his credit, when I say it's been us who argue for these people historically, he doesn't argue that point. I'm actually very surprised he didn't speak up and say, "Oh, well, actually, it's been," or something like that. You know, I could have handled this so much better. So to clarify. Just so you guys know, immigration helps an economy. That's just a fact. Or, well, it depends on the country. In regards to us Western countries, US, UK, and stuff, immigration helps our economy. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a filthy neoliberal. Even if immigration hurt our economy a little bit, like not crazy amount, but even if it hurt our economy, I would still want immigration. Immigrants are people. Workers of the world unite. We have nothing to lose but our chains, blah, blah, blah. What? Not a fucking nationalist. But if we're speaking specifically within the purview of economics, immigration helps us. Even illegal immigrants in America help us. Even illegal immigrants. So legal immigrants are tremendously helpful. They increase the labor supply. They lead to the creation of new businesses. They increase the total amount of labor, which is a resource the economy uses. It means that it leads to greater cross-cultural ties with other countries, which can often lead to better business opportunities down the road. The communication of labor and capital between different countries can lead to reemergence of certain business types in certain areas. It can lead to better partnerships down the road as populations synthesize with one another. It's just better. Immigration helps the economy. However, and I provided this specific example earlier, Sargon over there was malding because a 10% increase in immigration to a specific field, that's a huge amount, a 10% increase in immigration, that's an enormous number of people, to one specific field leads to a decrease in the wages of those already in that field by up to 2%. This is a minor, incredibly minor economic downturn. This is almost negligible, in fact. A 10% increase in immigration is huge. That's very, very large. A 2%, up to 2% decrease in wages is very, very insubstantial. However, there is good news, and everything that I'm about to say is economic fact. A lot of people like to argue against this point. However, benefits to the economy benefit everyone. Even Sargon agrees with this because earlier he said general economic improvements have led to an increase in the number of well-off people in this country. Those economic improvements were caused by neoliberal trade policies, up to and including an increase in immigration. The GDP has skyrocketed in this country, in a large part due to our changes in immigration. In our country, I mean, of course, the United States. So even with the fact that the economy generally improves with immigration, and I am a globalist, I've always been forward about that, I don't like protectionist policy, we have another key point here. Redistributive policies help even more. If there's more money in the country to redistribute, which there is after immigration, you can bring more of that down to the poor. So Sargon, in response to this dichotomy, has two choices. My choice is we allow immigration, economy get big, small number of people get slightly hurt, and then we use redistributive policies to give money to those people who were hurt so that they are not hurt. And everyone, including those workers, are better off than they were before. And Sargon's version is we end all immigration, hurt the economy, which will hurt everyone's economic prospects and lead to a wide variety of economic problems. However, at the very least, we don't have to worry about a small subset of the economy potentially experiencing up to a 2% decrease in their wages. So Yeah, that's not even to speak of the lower cost of commodity goods. That's not even to speak of the fact that bringing young people into your country means they can support the social structure, like the aging, like welfare infrastructure, to allow the NHS to continue being funded, to allow the social security systems to continue being funded. This is just economic fact. And this is, by the way, the point that Nazbols go on and off about. Nazbols are exactly the same as Nazis, except they have one more argument, which is we shouldn't just stop immigration because brown people are subhuman. We should also stop immigration because they're subhuman and because they're being allowed into the country decreases the relative labor value of lower income workers, in spite of the fact that their being in the country leads to other economic gains that compensate for those losses. That's like the Nazbol argument. It's one of the reasons why, following the Sargon debate, I have gotten messages and like ats from every Nazbol. Like all of them. Like DSA Striker was making comments. I'm pretty sure I saw Mike Enoch making comments. The Killstream was making comments. Are Nazbols actually relevant? Buddy, Nazbols are currently as relevant or more relevant online than traditional Nazis. I don't like making Nazbol jokes because I see them everywhere all the time. They all got really, really worked up. They're not dozens of them. There are quite a bit of them. I know it's been a meme for a little while because it's a joke, like, haha, leftist Nazi. No, there are a lot of them, and we should be cognizant of that fact. Whatever the case may be, this is the Nazbol argument. If you can memorize this, you can memorize the response to it, then congratulations, you have defeated the single Nazbol argument, which is actually we should stop brown immigration because it hurts low-income white workers, ignore the fact that immigration actually helps everyone in the long run because it increases the strength of the economy. I mean, we can just really quickly. I'm trying to look up US's GDP per year. Can I get a chart, perhaps? Can I get a chart? Wait, why is this hard to find? There we go. Real gross domestic product. So over the past, since the Hart-Celler Act, which was in the 60s, which is when American immigration really, really opened up, Nazbol basically means just a Nazi socialist. It's pretty simple. So anyway, right here, after the Hart-Celler Act opened up, like more or less in this ballpark, our GDP has increased nearly 5 times. It's nearly 5 times as large as it was before. It popped the fuck off. Even the rate of growth increased after the Hart-Celler Act. It just went up. Immigration helps with the economy. And whether or not the GDP reflects the health of the average worker, reflects the economic well-being of the average worker, is a product of the extent to which that country engages in redistributive policies. Redistributive policies have been shown to work. They've worked in the past. They're simple, they're humane, they're effective, they're very uncringe. Whereas cutting off all immigration to the country, you can't say that about any of those points. How do you argue against the brain drain argument? It's brought up very frequently. It's not like they care about the third world countries. Because they don't. If the brain drain argument, for one, they don't care about third world countries. Why are they pretending to? For two, I don't care about those countries either. People should be free to go where they want. If everyone wants to leave and come to America because they're really smart, big brain PhDs and they want to improve our country and benefit from our economic resources, that should be their right. I care about individuals, not countries. Like what else? Like what? What's the alternative? People, like intelligent people in third world countries, should be locked into that country and not allowed to move to other countries? My old Twitch VODs are 100% dead. There's no way to get them back. If you're a big brain PhD, you wouldn't want to come to America? Maybe. Anyway, So this was another argument that I made that was pretty cringe and not based at all. One specific instance.
I don't think they think that, though.
I'm not particularly concerned with what they think. They can make arguments if they want. Wait.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Wait.
There are, okay.
Wait.
No,
Do you
okay,
wait? Do you believe? Do you
argument.
believe in idpol? Wait. Are you an idpol man? Why should I just accept a person's argument because of their identity? So this was poorly handled on my part. Sargon backed off his earlier points and was like, well, I don't think these workers think, like making a non-argument essentially. And I said, I don't care what they think. Even though I immediately clarified it by saying I care about the arguments they made, that's not a good point. That gives him like a talking point. So he said the immediate like smug smile that he does, he knows he's gotten me like on a little smug getcha. So I should have said like I should have said something along the lines of like, what you say they feel like is irrelevant to me. That's literally not an argument. If you want to make arguments, I'm here to listen to them. Now, we're nearing the end of the debate now, because as we move further and further on, things get more and more irreverent, and our attention begins to slip a little bit. But in regards to good performance, this is what a good blowout looks like. And again, celebrating good performance is just as important as criticizing bad performance. Call it the sociopathy of the anti-immigration. You don't actually care about the well-being of these people. You advocate.
Do I not?
Hold on. You advocate against policies that help them. You advocate against the left. You advocate against socialist policies. You advocate against an expansion of welfare programs. You advocate against the redistribution of wealth. The only time you seem to care about the concerns of these people is in an incredibly niche situation that pans out to their betterment in the long run that ever so conveniently allows you to keep the brown people out of the country. Now, I'm not accusing you of being racist right now. I'm telling you, however, that it's very convenient to me that you claim to care so deeply about these people that in every other economic sense you overlook in every conceivable way. But now when there's a wedge issue that you can use to drive between the left and immigrants, you use that as an opportunity to pretend to care about these people. It's very strange for me.
Okay,
Bosh, you gotta let him respond.
Oh, I would. So that I would be delighted. So that is a good blowout. Sometimes you have to let these in during arguments sometimes. Oh, by the way, listen to his immediate response to hear a response.
You'd have to shut up first. I don't care whether you think I am a racist or not.
Completely ignores the point. It completely ignores everything that I said, immediately goes to the racism point, even though I specifically said that I wasn't accusing him of being racist. That is a good blowout. A blowout, or at least an attempt at a blowout, is when, after a long argument, the points have started to drift. They've drifted and faded away. Gotcha, pig. They've drifted and they've faded away, and people don't really remember what's going on at the beginning. Now's the time to synthesize. Now the time is to bring a conclusion. You want to gather all of those points up and you want to lay them all out. And that, I think, was a phenomenal blowout. I stopped right as the refs were jumping in, which was good. But the reason why I'm calling this a good, wait. You were talking earlier about appeal to authority. Appeal to authority and appeal to false authority are separate in both fallacies. They fit under the same fallacy. Whether or not it's false authority is a component to whether or not it's a fallacious appeal to authority. Not all appeals to authority are fallacious. A fallacious appeal to authority is when you say a point is true because an authority figure backs it up. Nobody did that over the course of this debate. Or at least I certainly didn't. If that was the case, citing the definition of a dictionary word would count as a fallacious appeal to authority. In reality, there are instances where you can appeal to an authority where it is not fallacious. If someone were to actually apply that fallacious appeal to authority standard, every argument that ever cites any type of information or data under any circumstance would be fallacious, which is obviously ridiculous. The extent to which the opinion of an authority figure is relevant depends circumstantially on the nature of the argument. So anyway, that was a good blowout right there. But a good blowout has to be juxtaposed to a bad blowout. Okay? Are you ready? Are you ready to see a bad argument? Because 20 minutes later, I get angry and attempt to do the same thing. See, Sargon is a master of redundancy. Sargon continuously, after that blowout, brings up the same points over and over and over again about the poor 2% possible wage decrease, hypothetical following 10% immigration. So he continues harping on this point. Again, this is something that I need to learn how to deal with better. Oh, hold on. I can't believe Vosh is full-throated defending neoliberalism that claims to believe in Marxian economics. Neoliberalism is based on neoclassical economics and is direct contradiction to Marxian economics, including the nonsense about globalism and immigration benefiting the economy. Mother Jones, I encourage you to find me a section of Capital where Marx argues that immigration is anti-socialist. Right now, we live in a neoliberal economy. As long as we live in a neoliberal economy, I want to improve the economy within the framework that I live within. That is the best that I can do. I do not plan on allowing the workers of this country to broil and starve and languish in poverty because I am too proud to ever offer prescriptive economic solutions in a system that I don't think is 100% perfect. I think that's the exact kind of brainlet retard gatekeeping that makes leftist economic discourse irrelevant to most broader discussion, which is pretty fucking obnoxious. I really do hate it when I care about like actually materially improving the working lives of people in this country who need it, and then other people like you step forward and say, we can't make their lives better like this. Don't you realize you're using the economic system that's been predominantly globally implemented for the past 250 years? Don't you realize you're legitimizing this system that every human being on the planet Earth already subscribes to by using it to improve the lives of our constituency? It's so unbelievably fucking stupid. It actually makes me choke on my fucking bile when I see it. How can you claim to be a Marxist when you use? Don't you realize you oppose society, but you live in a society? It's the exact same argument, essentially. Now, mind you, if we live in a post-neoliberal society, if we live in a Marxian economic global paradigm, you better believe my economic prescriptions are going to change pretty substantively, because I am in favor of actual solutions, not meaningless posturing to defend my ideological purity. So that's okay. Here, I'll help you out, okay? There you go. I've solved your problem for you. Now go forward, back to whatever Nosbel boards you shipped yourself out of. Have fun spending the rest of your life complaining that people trying to make actual changes to the world to better other people doesn't fit perfectly within your theory that can't be applied until a global revolution anyway. I, too, also like to refrain from having all sexual encounters with women because I recognize that in a patriarchal society, there's no way to 100% affirm consent because of the implicit power discord between myself and women. That's why I'm a vol cell, abstinent until the day I die, until the patriarchy is destroyed. I will never engage, I will never operate within a system that is anything other than perfect. All right, let's go. What was I doing? Oh yeah, this is an example of a bad blowout, okay? Because this happened again. This is just like 15 minutes after the last blowout. Okay, quick one. For one, I think it's really... And we're going to speed through it. Funny to me that earlier you were posturing about Marx being wrong because totally, in a total sense, the general economic prosperity of this country has gone up over time, when the reason why it's gone up are for precisely the same reasons that an increase in immigration would lead to an increase in the living standards of even the poorest Americans. Because in the case of our economy, a rising tide actually does push all ships upward. It does float all the boats. It's funny to me because they're two actually incompatible positions. Earlier you jerked yourself raw about how the general economic prosperity of the country has gone up. The reason why it's gone up is because of precisely those same immigration policies, those same neoliberal trade policies that have then subsequently led to an increase in the general standard of living for the people in this country. So far we're doing fine, but it's a little bit repetitive of me to go for these pointers, to go for these talking points, when just 15 minutes ago I went on a similar tirade.
same policies that you are currently opposing. For two, I think it's funny that you would care, pretend to care, I apologize, about the well-being of the working class when, and again, just to clear out, I'm not a nationalist. I don't give a fuck whether or not a person of the working class is British or Lithuanian or Polish. They're human beings, and I believe they should be treated with at least a modicum of respect more than what you're offering here. So, no, I know it's funny to you, the idea of caring about people, but that's because for you it's a facade, but for I actually care about this shit. So, for three,
advocate to reduce their wages.
For three, I would
That's
like for three, I would like to remind everyone that when his initial claim was a 2% reduction in overall wages, the actual claim is that for an incredibly specific subset of the yes, a particular specific low wage service. Are you gonna actually let me finish?
Per sector.
Let him finish.
I just explained it to you.
Carl, you're not acting very civil, Carl.
Sargon, I have to.
So to clarify, I have a plurality of evidence indicating that the economy benefits in general from immigration. You have a single link indicating, well, as your own argument demonstrates earlier, my good friend, an increase in the GDP over the past century and a half has led to a general increase in the prosperity of everyone in this country. That's what you were saying when you were saying Marx was wrong, that every proletariat's general level of wealth would fall. By your own definition as used earlier, you must concede that a general increase in the economic prosperity of this country helps the poor as well. You made that argument earlier. You can't not make it now. Additionally, I would like to point out the fact that the tiny subset of the population, which we hit with even in the article, it is said to be a minute change in their overall wages following a substantial change in the total number of immigrants coming in, when juxtaposed against the plurality of evidence indicating that immigration overall helps the economy, including the poor, in addition to the fact that when talking about the already, admittedly, incredibly small, incredibly tiny, incredibly minute impact on a very small portion of the population, Carl's solution isn't to engage in wealth reappropriation or any kind of socialist policy or anything that might actually help these people, or anything, unionization, anything that's been actually shown to help these people historically, anything that's actually advocated for workers' rights over the past few centuries. His advocacy is to engage in a reduction in immigration. So when he sees a problem, a tiny little problem that actually ends up benefiting the entire country, his solution is not actually to help those people with humane policies that effectively redistribute wealth. His approach is to keep people from coming in, because to him, humanity and charity to the poor is infinitely less important than anything that allows him to fake caring about those people to posture about immigration. And he laughs over here. Sargon over here, who loves practicing his little anime laugh, doesn't give a shit about the working poor. He's a bloated, spoiled brat. He was born one, and he lives one today. And his economic advocacy these days, it consists entirely of misinterpreting existing economic articles to push an anti-immigration agenda. Oh, do you have a problem with posturing now, Adam? I'm terribly sorry, comrade. I thought that was your fucking kink. Are you hard below the camera right now?
So that went on a little bit too long. That could have gone on half of that length and not ended with me attacking the moderator. That probably would have been a little bit better. I mean, it was entertaining. Oh, it was definitely entertaining, but yeah, for sure. Vosh, the lowering of wages through immigration is from a lack of power in the unions. Well, yeah, of course, Nanamir. The only reason why immigration would ever lower the domestic wages would be because unions aren't doing a good enough job including those immigrants within their including those immigrants in whatever like pay package they already have mandated for the workers. That went on way too long, and it ended with me insulting the moderator, which I regret doing, by the way. Not that I was wrong. I'm right with everything I do, always, forever. But in this specific instance, it would have gone a lot better, I think, if I had held my tongue. So I'll be more prescient about that in the future. We've only got 2 more points that I want to go over, actually, because the longer we go into this discussion, the more, I guess, meandering and irrelevant it becomes. But there's one quick one here. One of us does.
You're just arguing to take their stuff.
So tax laws are theft.
Well, I mean, if you were
shut the fuck up, Carl. This is the laziest fucking faux libertarian argument I've ever heard.
How about I actually finish what I'm about to say? If you say put 100% tax on, say,
never said that. So Carl pivots like fucking crazy here. It's incredible how hard he pivots. I say that I want redistributive economic programs. He says I want to fund it through theft. So I ask him, do you believe all taxes are theft? And he doesn't answer. So no. Carl does not believe all taxes are theft. He's not an ANCAP, I don't think. So this was just a nothing argument from him. But I shouldn't have come off so aggressive there. I should have just smugly smiled and said, so do you believe all taxes are theft? No? Then what the fuck are you talking about? Over-aggression cost me a lot of otherwise good points in this. And the final point we're going to go over is actually not so much on me. It's more on Carl, actually. So this is a pretty fun one. We can end it off with this.
Yeah.
Okay. 42%. So 58% of the city population was foreign born.
Yes, or not non-English. I think it's not.
Whoa,
really
whoa,
by
wait,
their-
hold
it's how they
on.
identify this.
Well, hold on, wait. Are they foreign born or are they non-white?
They're not non-white. They're non-English.
What is English?
English is an ethnic identity.
Oh, I don't care about ethnicity. I thought we were
Yeah, but I
talking
do.
about culture.
Yeah,
You're
but you
talking
think
about
ethnicity
you're
is
talking
race, don't
about an ethno-state right now. So, Sargon of Akkad is an ethno-stater. He wants an ethno-state. When he said he wanted to keep the country culturally British, he said that London was 42% white, or I'm sorry, 42% English as of 2011. However, if we go over the census from 2011, we can see quite clearly the demographics of that city. There is no 42% statistic here. However, white British is 45% of the country. That doesn't even include the Irish, Romani, or other whites. Additionally, whether you're Asian or Asian British, black or black British, mixed, all of these characteristics are lumped in with possibly being British. What that means is, at least from Sargon of Akkad's perspective, the only way to be English is to be white British. He's advocating for an ethno-state. If you lived in America, if you've lived in England for 3 generations and you have Indian descent, you are apparently not British to him. If you, your family came from China 100 years ago, you are not English to him. If your family is apparently Irish, you are not English to him. He wants an ethno-state. He tries to define his way out of this later. He tries to say like, oh, well, ethnicity and culture mean the same thing. No, they don't. If I was asked my ethnicity, I would say I was Irish Polish. But I'm American. I don't give a fuck about my Irish or Polish ancestry. That's why I don't go by Irish Laddie anymore, because I made that fucking email username back in the 2nd grade, and I've been stuck with it since. So he wants an ethno-state. I should have called him on that harder. I called him on it pretty hard, but I didn't have the data in front of me. Vosh, I have a concern. Isn't it possible to switch ethnicity? Since ethnicity has to do with common heritage or culture, so could the point be not identifying as English means you have the same culture? Ethnicity, when you talk about whether or not a person has an ethnicity, whether or not their ethnicity is blank, you're referring to generally what culture they came from. It's not the same thing as race. So Polish is an ethnicity. Polish is not a race. White is a race. Likewise, Polish can be a nationality. If I was in Poland, then Polish would be my nationality and my ethnicity. And white would be my race, maybe presumably if I'm like ancient Polish or fucking whatever, the ancient Polak. But he claimed that culture and ethnicity are the same thing, which is obviously not the case because in the census they used in England, they grouped Asian or Asian British Indian in the same category. They're not measuring culture here because somebody who had just come from India 2 days ago and somebody whose family came from India 3 generations ago are kept in the same category. It's about their ethnicity, not their culture. He advocates for an ethno-state. In Europe, we differentiate between race and ethnicity. Yeah, we do here too. Didn't Sargon claim during this segment that Slavic is a race? If he did, I didn't hear it. Scroll down to see where everyone was born. It's like 78% English born. Well, yeah, of course. This is your ethnicity, not your nationality. Most of the people here were born, country of birth. About 1/3 of London's population was foreign born, so about 63% of the population 63% of the population was born in England, and
75% of the population of London was born in Europe somewhere. So unless, again, the literal only way that Sargon's statistic makes sense is if you want a white ethno-state, a white Anglo-Saxon ethno-state, which is what he does. Sargon of Akkad has been far right for a while. I know that's a subjective determination, but I even called him out on this at the end of the discussion there, that all of his points were essentially far-right points, that he wants to end all immigration, Muslim rape gangs, end PC stuff, ethno-statery. He believes that a secret cabal of academics and intellectual elites are pushing for an anti-white male agenda, which is the JQ, just you ignore the fact that Jews are the ones who get scapegoated for that process. Sargon is a fascist. There was no denying that. Sargon might even be a crypto-Nazi. It's impossible to tell how much of it is deliberate misdeception or misdirection, and how much of it is him being incredibly stupid. We can end with a good meme. Specifically said, I'm not ascribing this to you because you don't believe in the Jewish question. I'm telling you how easily you can move from one to the other.
Let him respond. Go ahead.
Because
there we stopped. All right. So anyway, in conclusion, look at all the effort I put into this. If only I had put this much effort yesterday into the alt-hype stuff, maybe it would have been done months ago. Anyway, that's the gist right there. So point number one is that Sargon is genuinely, like, unbelievably stupid, and he's also a fascist. But point number two, and I think this is the more important one, is that I could have handled many portions of the discussion much, much better. So that's what we learned from today. That's our key quality top tier learning opportunity. Can you also address how calling him a retard was retarded and it only made you look bad? No, we can't. All right, we did it. An alien alias is asking about JQ stuff. Can you explain that? What about JQ stuff? What are we talking about? I have donos to go through. The Sargon thing with the JQ? Who's alien alias? Hello? Lag? What questions? I don't get it. Still wasn't a good look? Oh, hush. I do worse optics than the R-slur pretty often. Vosh, sometimes I see you say Sargon doesn't care about anything and that's the reason why he's far right, but when you now talk about it, it makes it seem like he actually has specific views he focuses on. Are these contradictory? No. He'll take whatever specific views own the left the most in any given position. Sargon's only consistent position is that he's anti-SJW. I haven't seen it yet, Creator Phase. Is that he's anti-SJW. That's like the main thing that he has. At the end of the debate, you asked Sargon what he thinks the reason is some leftists and BuzzFeed people rail against white people. He said it was because they had an ideological drive to do so. Despite being a leftist and a fan of yours, I found Sargon's prescription pretty reasonable, but you said it was JQ shit? Yeah, an alien alias. That was literally the Jewish question, except he didn't talk about the Jews. An elite group of academics and intellectuals have infiltrated the media and political system to disseminate an anti-white bias and perpetuate global immigration. Saying they have an ideological drive to do so doesn't mean they're not Jews. That's literally the Jewish question, just with the last bit left out. If you gave all of that to a person and convinced them of it, and then stepped away and left them to their own devices, they'll inexorably trend towards like a Nazi interpretation of that conspiracy theory. That's hardly like a stretch or anything. The cultural Marxism meme is already a Nazi meme. Why did you debate him in the first place? You can debate bad faith actors and come across well. It was my mistake to do so with the moderator, though. Ghost of FDR with the tier 1 sub. I have a simple message for the world. Kamala Harris is gone. That's true, comrade. That's true. Wait. An alien alias, I responded to that. Gimbo245 with a very generous tier 2 sub. Thank you very much. New viewer of the stream, thanks for leftist streaming opinions. Good luck going over your Sargon debate. Thank you. I had a lot of fun going over it. Probably not long, Hyena. How do you specifically debate bad faith? Well, I just talked about that for like 2 hours. Destiny stream take? I've been a patient boy. Oh, Twappy. I mean, I thought you handled it really well. I would have to like, go over it again. It wasn't super long, so I could probably like go over it on stream. I thought it was really good. I mean, for the most part, the issue really is that he's so like hesitant. He's so like emotionally like clogged up when it comes to lefty content that he wants to avoid it as much as possible. And he's unwilling to give any concessions to people he considers to be left-leaning because he thinks it would make him look weak. Ziggy Zach with $5 saw about 10 minutes of the Sargon debate, couldn't finish it. More power to you, comrade. Hey, I had to go over it twice, okay? Slinky Dude with $5, Sargon is my sleep paralysis demon. You hear his anime laugh and echoing in your dreams. I'm doing okay with the $2. Didn't realize Google rewards apply here. I don't know what Google rewards are, but hell yeah, comrade. I'm delighted to hear that I can benefit from them. I have a small background in debate, and I can't believe how often Sargon just didn't address your points. Yeah, that's what happens when you have biased mods and don't have any accountability. Thank you very much, Pumpkin Swift, with the $5 donation. I really appreciate it. There we go, my camera was a little bit misaligned. Caius with the $1. Kitten versus Gecko Dumb Baby Gladiatorial stream win. There can only be one. I have a feeling the Kitten would win that one, but you know what? I'm also interested in seeing it. Hyena won't let me. Gabby with the tier 1 sub, thank you. What is emasculation? Only men can be emasculated, or women as well? Emasculation is something that can only happen to men, like conceptually. Emasculation is when something happens to you that like degrades your manhood. It's something that makes you like unmasculine. It can mean like a lot of things in a lot of contexts, but emasculation can mean to be made to look weak, or to look submissive, or unconfident, or to be made to look like you're sexually impotent. That's a really common one. That's the basic gist of it. Lexify with the $1 test 2. That one came through as well, comrade. Respectamano with the 100 rubles. This whole debate was one huge brah moment on Sargon's point. Try not to interrupt them so often next time you debate a talking head like him. Oh yeah, totally. That's definitely one of the things I need to work on. Ruffled Bricks with the tier 1 sub, thank you. Looking forward to Rhetoric 107, Vosh in a 5v1 dogpile against Stefan Crowder, Ben Shapiro, Nick Fuentes, Brittany Venti, and the Nerd Kid from Untitled Goose Game. Hey, listen. That nerd kid from Entitled Goose Game is a fucking power hitter. I know he doesn't come off impressive in the game, but let me tell you, he knows he's got his fucking, he can take his fucking shots in the world of competitive debate, all right? That's going to be the day. That's going to be the dream. Bitterbrush with the $5. Sargon and No BS have the same nervous schmuckle whenever they're called out for their transparent beliefs. Sargon is a lot better at debate than No BS is. No BS looks really fucking dumb anytime he opens his mouth. Sargon can hide behind the smugness a little bit better. He's a little better at playing civility politics. No BS doesn't play civility politics. Amber Becca with the $5. Watching that debate was insufferable. I appreciate you taking the time to review your work for self-improvement. I think the online left can learn something from you in terms of this kind of rhetoric. Yeah, I mean, the point's to improve, right? I mean, what's the point of doing all of this if I come into these debates assuming that I'm already perfect at them and that I have nothing to learn from them? The reason why I'm comfortable engaging in self-critique after a debate like this is because I believe my debate performance can be improved through like empirical rigor, through training. Sargon doesn't believe that because in order to like critically go over the points in the argument, Sargon would have to relive every time he failed to acknowledge an argument that I make. Do you think Vosh versus Fuentes could happen for a 100K special? I could have debated Fuentes a while ago. I'm pretty sure it can happen like if I wanted to, right? Miles Hill with the $5. I thought you did great, bro. All Sargon did was repeat his talking points and ignore all the data you presented to him. I mean, yeah, but I could have handled it a lot better. Thank you, though. I love that shirt Vosh wears. Is that an anime girl? Yeah, totally. Look. Here, I'm pretty sure the shirt... There you go. Go to that Twitter. Difference between Nazis and neo-Nazis? One of them are neo. Dracoris Felving with the $5. I'm suffering, but for you, but learning? Good, good. Listen, learning is suffering. For man is both marble and sculptor. In order for us to improve, we must take the chisel to ourselves. Hail Kavaforth with the unbelievably generous $50 donation. Thank you so much, comrade. That is incredibly kind of you, and I really, really do appreciate it. Halo Reach Download forces me to watch you in 14.4p. Also, Sargon makes YouTube poops look like an intellectual gold mine. Trans rights and fuck that cuck mod. Yeah, the funny thing is, like yesterday, Adam Friended, the moderator, the cuck mod, reached out to me and asked, Sargon apparently wants to debate me on their stream again. Ha! Nope. If Sargon wants to debate, he can do it on my fucking channel, which will again get about the same amount of attention as if it was done simultaneously on both streams. He can come over here and one-on-one me. Trying to milk you for clicks, it seems like. Oh, he is. One time Adam Friended messaged me and he was like, wow, your Twitter gets a lot of attention, or something like that. I think he just likes popularity, which I don't intrinsically think is a bad thing. We're all public figures trying to make money out here, but still. Can you watch these 5 minutes all together? Not now, but I can watch them later. You could email them to me. Why is I don't care so readily accepted as a debate tactic from Sargon? Because it's all he can do when statistics don't look good for him. Would you debate Sargon on modern day debates? Oh yeah, absolutely. On modern day debates, yes. I trust, I think his name is John. I trust the modern day debates guy a ton. I think that he's a pretty great impartial moderator. Matthew Banks with the $5. You should have gone full JLP and repeated the question, then started shouting beta. I actually did that at one point to try and make fun of him, but people just thought I looked crazy, which was kind of dumb of me. I said, do you love black people? And he said, no, I don't love any type of people. And I asked him, why is that? And then I repeated the question, and the mod stepped in saying, well, he already answered. He said he doesn't love black people. And I said, no, do you hate black people? And he said, yes. Or something. It was just like some dumb shit like that. I was trying to make fun of him for constantly jumping back in his positions, but I guess I misinterpreted how popular JLP is, or I assumed there was some sort of common understanding there. Only Caleb with the $2. If you put your faith in Jesus Christ, you'll be saved. True! Mayor Ancom with the tier 1 sub. Vosh, why'd you debate this guy? You should know that you can't gain from a bad faith arguer like this. I'm not surprised you stuttered sometimes, plus autistic gang didn't know where you were, lol. Oh, comrade, you can come off well against any bad faith debater as long as you're in a neutral environment. 100%. That was my mistake. I believe I could have handled that better. Even though I didn't handle it that well, I still got a fuck ton of subscriptions and donations and stuff. Like, I'm not going to complain about that. There are always reasons to engage in those kinds of debates. I could have handled it better, but that doesn't mean there was no reason to. Bear Hug with the $3. If fascism really wins, how would it destroy itself? I recall you saying something in the lines of that. Because fascism is incredibly internally contradictory. Fascism burns itself out. It demands constant wartime. It demands isolationism. It demands in-group biases. It demands hierarchy. It demands constant destruction of the lower classes. It's a death cult. At the bottom of your right arm, is there a cut? No, that's my hair. See? Just arm hair. Seems like Sargon's been trying to debate several people recently. It seems like he's trying to regain lost relevance. Yeah, maybe he's just bored. Do you think this will lead to a bump in Sargon's waning popularity? I don't think so. My audience isn't that big. And there's nobody in my audience who would be convinced by Sargon's performance. Or if, I suppose if they are, I don't know how they came to become in my audience. That was my left arm? Wait, well, it's the same thing. What? It's just arm hair. What do you want from me? Historica Hungarica with the $2. Thank you. Stream Ring Fit Adventure next, I dare you. I will keep it in mind, comrade. And Leftist Bully with the $1. Do you think bombing the next alt-right rally in Minecraft would cause more negatives? Asking for a friend. Comrade, even as a joke, please don't implicate me. Remember, political violence is wrong, even if you're potentially going to end the lives of people who want to bring about a death cult and kill millions, okay? You gotta be careful with that. Hail Kavaforth gifted a tier 2 sub to Variant. Thank you. Saw you attempting dicks, so here you go. That is the community. That is the community element I like to see. Debate Sargon and the drunken peasants. That would be fun. Do you think Sargon is going to die out soon? No, he's going to be relevant for a very long time. What do you mean you don't know how they came to be in your audience? Aren't you literally targeting the fence sitters that would normally watch shit like Sargon? That's true, Reaver. I'm targeting them, but I think that if they're in my audience, that they have probably moved beyond a position where they could be convinced by Sargon's arguments. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think that I like brought people over to his side or anything like that. I didn't like lose a bunch of subs or anything. I mean, it's conceivable that I did, I suppose. I don't think that to be the case. Ghetto Taku with the tier 1 sub. I think he hides his Nazism behind stupidity so he can have a mountain of plausible deniability. Nazis love that shit. Yeah, that's true. He just doesn't dog whistle JQ stuff. He does like to dog whistle the okay sign stuff and the it is okay to be white kind of stuff, you know? So that's pretty fun. Emery81 with a very generous $10. Thank you. Got any insight on how to balance projecting strength and being over-aggressive? Yeah. You can be aggressive as long as it doesn't make you look upset. That's the thing. And also, you don't want your aggressiveness to keep them from being able to talk. You want it to be witty, quippy, you know? You want to upset them, but you don't just want to drown them out. If you're just trying to drown them out, it makes it seem as though, you know you can't beat their arguments, so you're trying to keep them from speaking. Also, the extent to which the projecting strength being over-aggressive balance sort of hinges on, the extent to where, like, the fulcrum for that lever is, depends on how much the audience of your opponent engages in civility politics. That's possible, Tram's right, but I mean, those things are going to happen. Anytime I do anything on this channel, there is a possibility that things end up looking worse for me and end up contributing harm to the world. It's always a possibility. There's no denying that. However, that doesn't mean I should stop trying altogether. I should accept the fact that there are going to be downsides, accept the fact that there are going to be negative incidences, and continue forward and try to learn as best as I can. How much to go through the Destiny stream? Twappy, I actually do want to. The only problem is I have another obligation today, which you all are going to hear about shortly, I think. What about leftists that cancel you because of hearsay in the past? Maybe seeing a proper leftist BTFO, the big boogeyman Sargon, is enjoyable enough for them to see some value in what you do? Possibly. Maybe if I had done better, that would be the case. Most people online have said that I did well, but of course, most people online that I interact with are left-leaning, so there's an obvious bias there. Twitch Center Snow? Snowverlay? Nah, fuck that. Also, you don't need to pay me shit, Twappy. Historica Hungarica with the $2. Turn on the gecko notification or else. Listen, I turned it on, okay, comrade? Bevel Boy with the $3. Has anyone in BreadTube heard anything from Contra since she left Twitter, or has she gone completely silent since? I've talked to her a few times. She's not fine, but she's not dead, so that's nice, I suppose. Devin Devon with the incredibly generous $50 donation. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, Vosh. I had no idea Sargon was that left-hating. Glad I stopped watching him. Hoping to get my brother off this stuff. Hopefully he isn't too far gone. I hope so too, comrade. Thank you so much for the incredible show of generosity. I'm delighted to hear you enjoy my content, and hey, maybe one day your brother will too. Godspeed. Get him the fuck out of there, okay? Get him. You have to yeet him. You have to yank him from Carl's clutches, okay? You have to save him. Am I aware of trained sonas? Yes. Thank you again, Devin. KV with the $2. Stop. True. Robula Conundrum with the $5. I missed the appeal to authority bit. Carlgon claimed it was fallacious because Farage was dishonest, saying UKIP are far right and is doing it for optics. Therefore, he isn't an authority. Any thoughts? That's utterly irrelevant to whether or not he's an authority figure on the subject or whether or not it's fallacious. Whether or not you believe an authority figure has bias in making a claim on something, which we all do. Everyone has bias in every claim that we make. Whether or not you believe there's any bias in the claim that they make has nothing to do with the degree to which a claim is fallacious, and has nothing to do with the degree to which that person can be considered an authority on the subject. Even if a person is biased against the subject on which they are authority, they are still an authority on that subject. But whether or not something is an authority is also subjective. At the end of the day, he accused me of engaging in a fallacious argument from authority for quoting somebody. So, there's not much wiggle room for sympathetic interpretations of his perspective on the issue. DJ Zerativ with the $5 in the near future. Can we discuss the possibility of claiming the term cultural Marxism and redefining it in a way that makes it sound like a neutral or positive turn for the left? Love you. I don't know how well we can reclaim that. There have been huge figures that have used it disparagingly, like Jordan Peterson is probably the biggest one. The cultural Marxism and such. That would be a that would be a pretty difficult like yoink to take away from them. By cultural Marxism, what do we even like mean? You mean like, I mean technically like Martin Luther King would have engaged in cultural Marxism, right? Because he was heavily inspired by like Marxist theory. He was a socialist and he tried to apply that to our social system. He tried to apply that to our culture. Everything is cultural Marxism if you want to squint hard enough. I don't know how we could turn that term around for us, but it might be a worthwhile endeavor, right? Gay Fesh with the $5. Force feminized Sargon. True. I don't think he'd play to it very well. MZS King with the 5 Australian, thank you. Have you ever seen the People's Veto video of yourself? Yes, I have. I've actually been planning a response to the People's Veto video that he did for quite a long time, like for a very long time. The fact that I have it is evidence primarily of the fact that I'm incredibly lazy, but it's something that I plan on getting around to fairly soon. I promise. Also take my money to help you eat the rich. Thank you. Thank you for this redistributive wealth you have afforded me. Gabby with the $7. Thank you. But is emasculation real, or if the same aspects of emasculation happen to women, it has no name? Because women should be submissive or weak? I thought this is a sexist term. Got in a debate with my therapist. Well, emasculation is referred to, I mean, whether or not something is real depends on how you interpret it. Emasculation is real in the sense that many men have a specific understanding of how their masculinity functions, and when it's challenged in certain ways, it makes them feel like less of a man. That can still be a harmful thing to do to a person who isn't a man, like to a woman or whatever, but you're not emasculating them because you're not challenging a central tenet of their gendered identity. You know what I mean? So, for example, if you're how would you say this? We can use trans women as an example. So if you're a cisgender man and you got a big fucking dick and then you fucking put it in, you squeeze it in, you try to... You get it in there and then you thrust twice and blast a huge nut and like pull out and start sobbing, that would be pretty emasculating. And the reason why is because our understanding of masculinity is tied pretty heavily to these ideas of sexual performance, of confidence, of machismo. So doing that would be an emasculating experience. However, if you were a trans woman, we can even say it's the same person a year later, okay? And they're like transitioning. And they do the same thing. They fuck and then pull out. While that may be frustrating or obnoxious for them, it's not emasculating because it's not a subversion of the masculine expectations that are expected of them. It's not a challenge to their masculine principal identity. If that makes any sense. If not, like again, whether or not you choose to subscribe to these terms is entirely up to you. I have a hard time liking women taller than me. It makes me feel emasculated and turns me off. Is it sexist? It's a product of sexism. I don't know if it necessarily means you have active biases. You know? If you have personal sexual preferences one way or the other, that's your... I mean, that's on you. We all have preferences that are motivated in large part by biases that we've encountered in society. Is there any chance you can leverage Contra's mass cancellation to get a more public alliance with you going? I've been trying to kind of do that. I did, Mouthy Infidel. By the way, Mouthy Infidel, I actually recently saw your debate with Stryker. Nicely done. Flevier with the 250. Vosh, should I get Panda Express, but when I go out to tutor today, I want it, but I also need to reserve money for Christmas gift thoughts. I have always been very spendthrift. I say don't get it. I say save your money. Be very, very scrupulous, and go out and enjoy tutoring, but that's up to you, and you should live your life how you choose to. And thank you for the donation, comrade. Is not wanting to date a passing transitioned trans woman bigoted? In almost every instance, yes. Like, keep in mind, if we're talking about a passing transition trans woman, I assume you mean like bottom surgery done as well. We're talking about someone who is in every conceivable physical sense in regards to your interaction with them, like a cisgender woman. Maybe they need more lubrication for their pussy or whatever, but beyond that, like, there are cis women that also have to deal with that. So we're talking about somebody who. So here's my issue. Here's the situation where it's a problem. If you could fuck a trans woman and then love her and love that and have a grand old time, and then she tells you she's trans and that turns you off, yes, I think that's a pretty clear-cut example of transphobia. Now, you can make arguments in favor of that transphobia. You can say, well, I can't help it. I was born in a society that endowed in me the idea that people's birth gender is intrinsically like a part of their personality. And you can do that if you want to. But that doesn't make it not transphobia. That just means that there's a reason why you're transphobic. But if it's a woman with a penis and you're just not into penises, I mean, there you go. You're not into penises. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Why do I feel like the focus is a little bit off? That feels a little bit better. Is finding trans women specifically attractive some kind of bigoted? I don't think so, as long as you don't reduce them down to their genitalia or to their gender presentation, as long as you appreciate them for what they are, like, holistically. Zelio with the $3. I really don't get these Nazis listening to lefty bands like Pink Floyd. Nazis don't create art, they appropriate it, okay? Defend your communities. Somniostatic with the very, very generous $25. Thank you. I hope you got a rent credit for the utility hijinks yesterday. Also, Roger Stone was found guilty and is going to prison, I think. Also, wieners. Was Roger Stone found guilty? Roger Stone is convicted and oh wait, this was, oh yeah, this was from weeks ago. Okay, I'm sorry. No, I remember this now. Okay, sorry. When you said that, I assumed you meant like today, and I thought, like, oh shit, was there like another charge that he got convicted on? Okay, I'm here now. All right, sorry, whoops. Also, wieners. That is true. Table Manners 16 with the $5. I just advocated for trans rights in RuneScape, and another player gave me $250,000 and was like, hell yeah, trans rights. But like, there were also a bunch of stupid chuds who reacted very stupidly. Table Manners 16, congrats on finding a pay piggy trans person in RuneScape to get money from, okay? Nicely done. That's kind of like how my career operates, actually. Flex1, I pay attention to chat. Are you transphobic if you just want to have blood-related kids and because trans women can't have them? I would question why you want to have blood-related kids so badly. There's probably something to unpack there. But if it's really important to you to be able to have children that are genetically yours, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with not wanting to be with a trans woman. Trans women don't have wombs, to my knowledge. Is the first part of the stream going to be uploaded? What do you mean? This stream? I thought Nazis were anti-modernist, but they literally make modernist music. What do you think about that argument? Because Nazis aren't actually anti-modernist. Nazis are an incoherent jumble of positions that make no coherent ideological sense, but they believe in them anyway because they're fueled entirely by spite and anger and stupidity. Oh yeah, of course, Don Mako Umaneko. F. Chopin with the $5. Remember when the mod told you to stop interrupting Sargon when Sargon was interrupting you while you answered a question? Also, Sargon made a post-debate video lying about you in a COD Daily. Oh, I saw the parts of the video. It was just like standard post-debate cope. Pretty cringe, honestly. But yeah, I remember that. When Sargon interrupted me and then I tried to take the noise back from him and then the mod told me to shut up, that was a pretty good one. Conifer with the $5. Marxism is materialist, anti-idealist. An application of it to culture can only confuse what Marxism stands for. Okay, when people say cultural Marxism, they don't literally mean like an application of the Marxist ideology. What they mean is elements of critical theory and Marxist class dynamics being interpreted in a way to influence culture. Like critical theory, for example, is a sociological lens of analysis that's pretty much explicitly derived from Marxian economics. But is nonetheless like not a materialist philosophy. Have a good one, Don Mako. If I, as an aromantic, prefer porn with dicks but also like titties, so I usually like trans porn, is that transphobic / make me a chaser? I don't think so, no. I do not believe that is the case. You can enjoy whatever you want to enjoy, just try not to hurt other people. Posadas John with the $1, both drunken peasants and no bullshit have been mentioned, which has caused my brain to remember that Drunken Podcast originally started as the No BS Podcast, but changed it after a few episodes because they found out another channel had that name. I just realized was... Oh, I didn't realize that, actually. Interesting. Nice creator phase. Posadas John, I didn't know that. Nice trivia, brah. Sargon of Akkad with the $1. Vosh, hang on. Vosh, hang on. Hang on there. Vosh, Vosh, Vosh. Stop, 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 stop. I'm so glad I'm American, dude. Holy shit. Caleb Roma with the $5. Nomenclature. Non-clementure, you mean. Thank you, Caleb Romo, for your non-clementure donation. Brad with the 140 czar. Thank you so much. You're amazing, Vosh, the way you de-radicalize right wings, your honesty. You reflect on your mistakes. You can make it a place where reactionaries can learn to shift left. Keep on going, comrade. I ain't never gonna stop. That's why there are so many people who are acting doom and gloom about all this, and it's really strange to me. I don't know what they're like. So I performed slightly below the high standards that I set for myself in a debate where the moderation was biased against me. Okay, I mean, I could learn from those mistakes, but I'm in here for the long run, baby. I'm not planning on fucking cashing out on YouTube this year or next year or the year after that. As long as I have the ability to do so, I'm going to attempt to keep growing as aggressively as possible. And this is but one stopping point on that path. Thank you very much, Brad. What exactly is a chaser? A chaser is a derogatory term for somebody who fetishizes trans people and dehumanizes them like such. Levin with the $5. Thank you. What kind of music you like? I want new music to listen to. Dude, I just listen to video game and anime soundtracks 100%. Hopefully somniostatic. Thank you, cultural Marxist. Have you seen this video in the debate from the Discord? What? Alright, that's pretty good. One of the by far one of the one of the things I like most about my job, I guess, is the fact that I can now have memes made about me. That's such a surreal experience, you know? That's so fucking wild. It's so good. Okay, hold on. I'm going to wrap up donos, and then I'm actually going to call the stream for one very important reason. That important reason being that I have another stream to do in like 3 hours. Because at 5 p.m. PST today, I'm going to be doing Dungeons and Dragons, baby. Hey, listen the fuck up, comrades. If you like dungeons, if you like dragons, you should come on by. We're going to be doing it right here. It's going to be me. It's going to be fucking Conyer, CC, Pig Puncher, White Nervosa, Lexi, Cyborg Lexi, and Vermin Hands, a.k.a. Hyena, a.k.a. my girlfriend. It's going to be a good-ass time. Pig Puncher's going to be horny. We're in the astral plane right now. A lot of shit is going on. Do a recap. Our intrepid heroes came to the forlorn city of... I'm blanking on the name right now because I have a headache. Mordil. And to find it in the grip of a plague. They found a number of mysterious things going on, including heavy magical involvement, a gigantic bone skull wolf demon that seems to be presiding over the town, and the plague seems supernatural. Their investigations have taken them to the bottom of the town's defunct mine, which contained within it a portal to the astral plane. The astral plane has within it a tiny island floating on the silver sea of dead, a tiny island upon which a factory has been built. And they are currently in the midst of finding out what to do about this factory, which seems to be churning out mythical contraptions of foreign invention, guns and weapons of that sort, even mechanical vehicles. And they are currently meeting with an emissary of the Raven Queen, the Lady of the Dead, to find out what to do about it. Let me go over the last few donos. Beta Ray Tasty with the $2. When has my channel been conspiratorial? From Sargon? Did he actually ask that? I mean, Sargon's entire channel is conspiratorial. He loves conspiracy mongering. He fucking adores conspiracy mongering. He did say that? Oh my god. He asked that in the debate. Wait, I gave a bunch of examples, though. 9/11, cultural Marxism, Gamergate, fucking feminism shit, the Heather Heyer. He engages in that stuff all the time. All the time. Well, whatever. Balthazar with the $5. I dated a 6'5" woman when I was 6 foot. My feelings changed when she could put her knee over my shoulder when we're both standing. Give it a try. Listen, if I ever find a woman 5 inches taller than me, I promise I'll fuck her for you, okay? I promise that for you, Balthazar, I will fuck her, okay? And Balthazar with the $2, thank you. Can we claim ethnic Marxist and use it against them? Yes. No. Yes. Yes, we can, comrade. We're going to find a way, okay? I don't know how exactly we can apply that, but will she fuck you? I have pretty decent success. Also, how did you have your players fall in the astral plane? The astral plane doesn't have gravity. Your movement is determined by your wisdom and you just float around. Bad lore. My lore! I made it. Fuck you. So anyway. Balthazar with a very generous $10. Thank you very much, comrade. I'm surprised you didn't try to green pill Sargon about how the Hibernians immigrating to the UK are responsible and removing the UK's claims to their homeland and letting Ireland reunite is best. Dude, I shouldn't. I wanted to meme a lot more in that discussion, but I got too frustrated to think of anything quippy, you know what I mean? Also, Sargon's really stupid. I doubt he would have actually engaged with any of the jokes, and he would have just played stupid. But I probably should have. It would have been worth the memes, you know? It would have been worth the memes. Red Eye Sam with the $5. Ben Shapiro's baby Hitler speech, but he's been shoved into a locker by Chad Thundercock. YouTube won't let me send the link, so here's the title. Have I seen this before? Hold on. I might need to watch this on my own, because I have to finish prepping.
Finally, argument number 10. This one has become popular in recent years after the book Freakonomics came out. That argument is that abortion lowers the crime rate, right? That what has lowered the crime rate traditionally has been killing all the would-be criminals. First of all, I don't know who's comfortable with the pre-crime version of humanity, where we get to decide before you're born whether you're likely to be a criminal and then abort you based on future criminal activity in which you have not participated. The argument, I guess, here is that would you kill baby?
Okay. RM Brown with the $5. You're missing the big picture, which is that Lacey Green is worse than Hitler and the Terminator combined and needs to be stopped by a true hero. Maybe one day I can do a thing on Lacey Green to for the reactionary turn that she did, but I'd need to refresh my chops in it, you know? And Balthazar with the $5 is appealing to Ben Sharper Image's opinions on larger penises, a fallacious phallus appeal to a failed phallus authority? Possibly. Does Ben Shapiro have opinions on penis size? Is that a thing? Is that a thing he believes in? I have no idea. Constantine GB Strangelove with the €5. Thank you. You should have kept your cool at the end. R word is bad optics, even if I agree. Overall, a very good debate on your end. 2v1. Keep up the good work. Thank you, comrade. I don't know if the R word is bad optics. I don't know if the R word is bad optics for his audience. Wait, White Nervoso, which emote? Which emote should we get a 25 combo for? Okay, we're gonna do a hug. Uh-oh. It's not gonna happen. Chat on its own can't do it. It can't do it, not on its own. Only I can do it. Alright, everyone. Everyone shut up and get ready. We're going to hypers when I say now. When I count down. Okay? It's gonna be hypers. Everyone load, reload. 3, 2, 1, now. There we go. There we go. That's what we need to see. That's what I like to see. Balthazar with $5. Sargon of deplatformed couldn't clarify butter. A basic cooking skill, putting butter in a pot over low heat and skimming solids from the top. Balthazar, I have to say, it's really strange to me how all of your fucking donos get missed by the API. It's like always you. It's always you. Balthazar with the $5 is forcing an editor to edit a Sargon of deplatformed debate considered cruel and unusual punishment and possibly a war crime by the ICC. I might actually consider that, yeah. Having the editor go over and like make a cut together. I don't know if I will though. I mean, I already have the full thing there, but no one wants to watch the full thing. I don't want to watch the full thing. All right, I think I did it. I think I went over all the donations. Balthazar, I have no fucking idea why your donos always get eaten. It's really strange. It's very, very strange. Whatever the case may be, I love you guys. Thank you so much for your delightful support. We'll be streaming again tomorrow, but even more importantly, we're going to be streaming double again in just a few hours, 5 p.m. PST. The stream preview will go up the moment this stream ends. Have a good one, comrades.